thumbs up. Conscious crew, we need all of that, because we are in fact working. If you can use those fingers to click onto the live stream, if you can use those fingers to type into the comment section, you can definitely use those same fingers. My God, 2 thumbs up the video. We need all the thumbs up. So run me that, because we're working, girl. Shout out to all the new subbies. We are at a solid 53,000 subscribers, girl. We put in that work. What can we say over here? It's all progress, girl. So shout out to all the OGs and all the new Gs, baby. We do it all over here. We are a all-purpose platform, political conversation, sociology, psychology, God, spirituality. We roast, we gag, we do the most, baby. We do the most. So get in where you fit in at. It's a little bit of something for your wild side, your spiritual side, and your shady, messy ass side. Oh, yes, God, all purpose. All right. Also, make sure that you guys have your notification bell set to all, so that you never miss a day or hour when the kink is in fact kanging. And please make sure that you are sharing the platform out, whether that be to your YouTube community wall, your Instagram, your Snapchat, the dark side of Twitter, Tumblr, or your personal OF. I don't really give a damn where you in fact are laying the link, just like them dirty ass whores. No, we are loud. We are live, and we are certainly in color. And if you enjoy yourself and you love the king and you love seeing him up here, girl, make sure that you guys show some love to the Cash App, $Consciouztv, and or PayPal.me/Consciouztv, spelled just how it is here on the platform. And with no further ado, let's go ahead and push on through.
I know a place where you can recharge your soul.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
And in the midst of brokenness, he gon' see your asshole.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
You gon' heal, you gon' laugh and catch a little shade.
Ooh, girl.
Y'all know he be slaying, y'all better stop playing. Come hear what he's saying.
Ladies and gentlemen.
All right, what is going on, Conscious Crew? This is a Improv live stream. Just ran across my desk earlier, and I was just sitting on my ass, relaxing in my Versace robe, and I said, you know what? Why not come and get into the things? Now, before we get into this discussion, I want to say that this is going to be more of a intellectual live stream. Okay, you're gonna have to put on your thinking caps. Okay, we need all propeller hats on deck, all aluminum foil helmets on deck, girl. Okay, so you're gonna have to apply your brain, some intellect, probably a little bit of common sense. Okay, y'all know I like to stretch and contort and bending y'all all out of shape intellectually, and this is one of those talks that are going to do that. If me and my guests have some time, we would definitely drop the link. We know that sexuality and gender always stirs the pot up in this dysfunctional, bigoted ass society. So I'm sure that folk are going to have a lot to say. Before we drop the link, I also want to say, I want you guys to match energy, okay? Some of y'all, girl, I love to hear from y'all, girl, but y'all move like molasses. I need y'all to, have energy when you speak. Be in the flow, don't come add grandpa energy, this is an entertainment-based channel here. So most of my supporters watch for a roast and a gag in a key. And they still kind of like a bit of a certain type of energy, even when we're getting into a bit of an educational dialogue, all right? So don't come up here and bore the panel, have strong talking points, okay? We don't, need no, girl, y'all know what it is, okay? Give it, honey. Match CTV in all things, all right? Don't make the panel a drag, okay? Come up here with energy, get into your things, honey, pop your shit, do what you got to do. All right, thank you so much, Gabriella. I felt like since this was a rainbow-ish topic, that the king of the queer community will come up here in all of his rainbow celestial glory. Now, to help me have this conversation, I want to bring up my wonderful pal and friend. He's also a content creator. He's no stranger here. You guys know him as Arshan in the comment section, but he's also better known as Critically Drinking over on YouTube. And they have these riveting intellectual unpackings and dismantlings and, you know, philosophical conjecture all over on the Critically Drinking platform. So with no further ado, I want to welcome Arshan to the platform. Hi, Arshan.
What's up, CTV? How you feeling, bro?
I am doing awesome. How are you on this riveting Saturday?
I am all right. I had to bring my grandpa energy. You know, you talked about the grandpa.
Not the grandpa energy, man.
Yeah, that's right, nephew.
On period. Well, I told the folk, you know, this going to be a bit of an intellectual jerk off.
Yeah.
You know, this ain't one of them common sense subjects as much as we try to really be extremely black and white when it comes to orientation and sexuality. Even when it comes to raising and how to live as a human being, things get very deep and very nuanced. But I want to thank you for taking time out here, especially last minute, to join me. And I wanted to have you up here particularly because I was watching your live stream yesterday. I think it was me and Reckless either last night was watching a replay of a show that you did, and you were having a discussion with Bree and Yellow about the Joe Budden and Melissa Ford dialogue, and male sexuality, I guess, came up then. Can you talk to me a little bit about what inspired you to want to review that and your thoughts?
Okay.
And on set discussion. I want to shout out to my baby mother Tamika for a nasty piece of child support chat. Thank you, baby mother Tamika. Go ahead, Arshan.
Yeah, so what prompted us wanting to talk about that, there's a dynamic. And we've had these kind of conversations here too on your channel. But when men are trying to express themselves about something that's interesting for them or they feel, it kind of gets shut down to the feminine side of the conversation. That's what Melissa Ford did in that clip. I can't remember how sexuality got brought up, but my overarching point was that men express masculinity in an array of ways. Like, again, there's you, there's me, there's Reckless, like you said, Yella. We all express masculinity in different ways. And I don't like that masculinity sometimes gets pegged into what the hegemonic masculinity. If it's not that alpha male archetype, that machismo, if it's not that, then it doesn't count as masculinity. And I disagree with that.
Disagree with it.
Yeah.
I forgot exactly where y'all was in the conversation when I had Reckless stop it to make the point that do you think we get to me, I feel like when it comes to the conversation around, I know what it was. I think you guys were, damn, I don't know where y'all was. Damn, I can't remember. I hadn't pulled it up, but I remember distinctly. Huh?
I said I cannot remember either.
Yeah, but I distinctively recall having a thought that don't we just keep running into the same brick wall when we attempt to, like, we still run into the same gender, the same gender dead end. You know, like when we try to really associate male and female with feminine and masculine, you know, like I just don't understand why, especially for men, because men have more of a shortcoming when it comes to their feminine energy than women do when it comes to their masculine energy. Why is it that you can't be masculine with the dick in your mouth? Because I know that Joe had made that statement that, you know, all they want to show now is they're quick to show a man with a peen in his mouth, but they won't, show whatever he's referring to as traditional or legacy masculinity. What
Yeah.
the fuck was the masculinity that he was advocating for exactly?
And that's what I say is that hegemonic masculinity. What he thinks he embodies, that alpha male, I'd be ready to fight, we can pull up, we can square up, that kind of, all that stuff, that silliness, the stuff
That's
that's
what he
hindered the black community, they want everybody to be on that type of time. And I just don't see that as the only model of masculinity that we need. I don't think that that's the only one we should pursue. I honestly think that masculinity needs to broaden, and I think we need to stop using masculine and feminine. Like one of my points was they keep trying to call women masculine, like all through the red pill space. They call women masculine for neutral traits. A man can embody it, or a woman can embody it. So, like, let's say being assertive. Anybody can be assertive. It is not a foundational principle of womanhood to be genteel and demure. That's just what society programmed people. And the same thing with men. Men have learned a lot of performative traits as well, and they get assigned masculine traits, but that's not true because now that we see the veil is falling off, men aren't performing to the same way they used to because things are shifting and women are higher performing. Now we're seeing traits shift over to the higher performing partners. So we can't keep saying things were masculine and feminine when they're just dominant and submissive.
Yeah.
It's not really. Yes, I think we need an alignment. Stop using gender to identify everything because it's not accurate. It's not even useful.
It's not. And hi, Reckless. I see you're in the chat, Reckless. If you want to join, you can hit the link. The link for right now, you guys, is only for Reckless. If Reckless wants to join, here's the link. I agree with that because another way of talking about how neutral these polarities are is they're unisex. We're really talking about unisex attributes, unisex qualities. As you said, women can be assertive, women can also be aggressive, women can be physical. I mean, we act like so interesting about this lopsided, very selective society as it relates to heteronormativity and even gender normativity is that we will hold down gender politics, but at the same time act like we don't equally live in a society where women and men both equally contradict the gender politics at all, such as you have women police officers, women military folk, female combat fighters, women basketball players, women wrestlers. You have women in these areas that maybe at one point in time were traditionally masculine, and equally so. You have men who are also nurses, ballerinas, who are in so-called traditional female spaces. So we're literally living in a society where we see that these qualities of feminine and masculine, these attributes, they literally have been swapping for ages, and they've been swapping the whole time. So then why in the hell do we continue to pigeonhole masculinity and femininity to sex and gender to begin with?
Yeah, it's just something we've learned to do. It's the more divisiveness, and I get it. It's learned behavior, and like I said, it's not useful. Even if we looked at it as if we looked at it through the gender lens, like the red pill, the people who always spent their time talking about how to find a relationship were women, historically. The Cosmos, all the magazines, how to find a relationship, how to keep a man. Now we've got whole sectors of men talking about how to find relationships, how to keep relationships, how to get the marriage. Why isn't that being called feminine when that's been a traditionally feminine domain? It's selective labeling to pigeonhole other people when it suits their argument. Because if gender expressiveness is a feminine trait. That's assigned as a feminine trait. So all these dudes with the microphones, that's expressiveness. So are they being feminine? So I mean,
as emotional as the red pill community is, I would say it's giving very much so estrogen.
We can't keep flip flopping. That's the thing. So I mean, okay, you want to get mad when women call you zesty, sassy? I get it. I don't like that either. But then you do things that are feminine and then call them masculine for doing things because they're being socially promoted. It's the back and forth of it. That's the problem that I have. And I think if we took the labels off of it, the gender labels off, it would make a lot more sense. What traits are we actually looking at? Okay, this person's passive. Okay, do they need to be encouraged? Do they need more self-esteem? Like what's the issue with the self-esteem? Instead of calling them zesty, sassy, maybe they just haven't learned to speak up for themselves, male or female. Because both people, we're all human, we're all struggling from the same issues. It just expressed differently.
Right. As a man who's doing his work, are there still quote unquote feminine attributes and characteristics that you are uncomfortable with, but still challenging yourself to integrate into your own humanity? Do you have some issues with some of the qualities that have been historically associated with femininity and embracing those qualities as a man? Or are you completely comfortable with all things feminine and masculine in your own personal expression?
The one that I struggle with the most is because of my family upbringing, and it's not gender. It's going to look that way. Affection. My family was not deeply affectionate, so I feel uncomfortable showing affection because like everybody in my family, like, don't touch me, back off. Everybody's like that. They don't want to touch, tickle, hug. They're kind of standoffish. So because of that, I struggle with affection, publicly showing that and wondering if people are as uncomfortable as my family, because my programming switches to my family. Nobody wants to be touched. Nobody wants to be hugged. Nobody wants you close. Nobody wants you in their space. So I struggle with that, but it's not because of gender. That's just because my upbringing. But anybody that would see that would think, oh, he's a typical man, doesn't want to show affection unless it's sick, you know.
But it's more out of culture and habit.
Yeah, absolutely. But for the most part, the stuff that's typically assigned to femininity, because of my nephew, I spent a lot of time with my nephew when he was young. I was the more caring, tender person around. Like I was that person. A lot of the women in my family have that, what most people would say is masculine, but they were more dominant. Like they carried themselves more assertively. But I don't call that masculine, because they could also switch if they needed to. They could be tender. Their general mode was to be more assertive, to be more dominant. And so there was a lot of clashes. But yeah, you know, I got to learn to be the tender person, the caring person, the attentive person. I was what somebody else would call like the nurturing person. That's the role I picked up in his life.
Got it.
Yeah.
Reckless, welcome to the platform. Anything you want to say so far?
What's going on? Hello. I'm assuming it was divine timing, because I was like in a deep sleep, and as soon as I hit your video, the first thing that came out your mouth, conscious, was and I saw you and Arshan, and the first thing came out your mouth was like, me and Reckless was watching a playback of your show, and I was like, what?
And was so okay. I forgot what exactly we had paused it on when we started talking last night about it. Do you remember what got said that made me then go into my soliloquy?
I just remember I was showing you the video, and I was showing you the what Joe Budden was saying, and he was like, now this is what me and Arshan gonna disagree, because the way I read it and the way that the way that it was that he was trying to show that in society, from the surface level, is that a certain version of masculinity is being erased, which wasn't really my point, but what I was pointing out was the homophobia. Because what he was saying is that in society, they'll show another man sucking another man off before they show this version of masculinity.
Which isn't even true. Do you agree with that, Arshan? Because it's clear that the overwhelming representation of masculinity is still very much so either thug, toxic masculinity, aggressive masculinity, stoic masculinity, broad shoulder, symmetrical masculinity, and not LGBT quote unquote masculinity. Or do you feel different? Do you feel like there is more of a representation of feminine men than there are quote unquote masculine men?
I would say it's nuanced. It depends on where you spend your attention, because there are places where you spend your attention where it's more diverse. Like I would say, if anybody who watches CBS, like the channel CBS, almost all of their programming tries to have a diverse cast. There'll be a black person, an Asian person, a Latina, a white person or two, and there'll be somebody that represents LGBT or some alternative lifestyle, like they might be punk rock, golf. It'll be something. Every crew is very diversely mixed, and if you spend your time in places like that, you'll start to think that everybody's pushing like that the woke agenda. As everybody, I don't like that language, but that's the what the right side says, the woke agenda, liberal agenda, whatever. But you'll start to think that that's what's out there because you spend your time there. But there are plenty of other places, like you said, that are more predominantly was heteronormative. A
And
lot of
let's talk
straight men.
about it, like
Yeah.
the heteronormative dominancy of hip hop, the heteronormative dominancy of the sports community, from hockey to football to to basketball to soccer, etc. Like
the military.
Yeah.
The military. I mean, politics.
That's real.
I mean, like the world is very much so still traditionally female male bullshit. Not bullshit, but
But I'll tell you, as a straight man who's programmed, like I admit this publicly, I've been programmed with all the isms and obias. So I am hyper aware. You become acutely aware every time you see something that's not part of your program.
Absolutely.
So even if you see less of it, you feel it more. So every time, I still can't get the image out of my mind from Lovecraft Country when them two dudes was in the room and one guy just spit, and I was like, oh no, it was like so foreign to me that I was like, what just happened? I felt
you're another one who had to fast forward through the P Valley homoerotic scenes.
I was okay season 1. I haven't made it through season 2. I haven't watched season 2. I made it through season 1 just fine. Uncle Clifford's cool with me, but there was just one scene in Lovecraft Country. It was so visceral, and I was like, "What is going on?" That's it.
A lot of visceral scenes in season 2 of Valley. So just
I haven't done it. I haven't ventured in.
A lot of visceral. I
might pass. But I'm gonna tell you though. I mean, even if it's not more of that we see, there honestly is a response that you have. It's like physiological. You're not even trying to have it. As soon as you see like two gay people kiss, it's like, oh, what? You're averse to it. And I spend a lot of time around churchy people too, and they have the same response. Want to change the channel? Oh, why they got to put this in everything? Even if it's not predominantly what you see, the moment you see it, it feels like it took over. So I get the feelings, even though I think through it. And I'm like, okay, everybody deserves to have their space. Everybody should have their representation. It's not cool to shun somebody and say they can't be on TV. That's not cool. That's kind of like narcissistic of whatever I identify with. There's like some kind of cultural narcissism about heteronormativity that I can only see myself reflected. I can't be like that. So I recognize that that's a problem.
Reckless, how do you feel about the conversation that the marketplace is oversaturated with visibility of feminine men? That masculinity is going extinct.
I'm over here just waking up. I really don't agree.
and woke up very gay.
Girl, that makes two of us. No, but I was gonna say, like, I really don't agree with. I just think that the version of masculinity is mutating. It's going into it's evolving. Now, this is just a time for men, heterosexual, cis. By the way, I haven't dropped the word, so I'm saying this not conscious, cis or straight men, etc., etc., etc. It's just now that times are changing. This version now we're putting masculinity under a microscope. And now we're trying to figure out, okay, cool, because now we have more straight men that are more accepting of other versions of men. Now, it's still evolving. So now straight men are like, okay, cool. Now we have queer people more at the table. Okay, cool. Like you have people like Arshan saying, okay, cool, you guys are still men. So now people like me, we recognize that you guys are men. Okay, so cool. So you're still masculine. But now I'm starting to realize I'm starting to get pushback from women's community and also queer people or whoever, or people that experience us. Now we have to question, what is this version of masculinity and is it helpful? Is it beneficial to us? I just believe that it's mutating. It's evolving. Okay. That's what I believe.
Arshan, anything you want to say to that?
Yeah, only thing I can say, and I'm only so it's not just about gay. Like my antenna also goes up when I see a black man that's in a TV show or production, and he's never with another brown skinned black woman. Like almost never. I can't find it. So when I do see it, I notice it because it feels like more of the programming. So it does feel like a lot of times like there's certain types of things that are programmed. Every brown skinned guys interracially dating, it's never with a black woman. It's hard to find. So I have antennas up for other things, but I also know that I feel it more when I see a gay person come up, and I have to check myself within myself, because the first response is ill, it's like no, but then I'm like that's not cool to automatically dismiss somebody because everybody's like y'all. I've learned a lot from you guys. Y'all have had to look at straight people and their relationships and their messy stuff and their sex scenes. You've had to watch that even if it wasn't your cup of tea, and it's basically being forced down your throat. And when the shoe's on the other foot, even if it's just 10% of the time, we can't handle it. That's kind of not okay. Like that's not okay. That's some kind of it's excusing the hate. Excusing the hate.
Blatant hypocrisy.
Yeah. So I mean, if 90% of the stuff is like looks like me, because I feel it when it comes to race. So I also feel it when it comes to gender dynamics. I got to be fair about that. And I do think, like Reckless said, it's shifting. Because the same thing with the racial thing that I'm talking about, it's shifting. And people are more accepting of interracial couples. But it felt like ever since that Cheerios commercial about 15, 20 years ago, it shifted all the way. Like it went from that, oh, there's a interracial couple. Everybody was mad at it on the Cheerios commercial. Now it's like, now you never see a brown-skinned black man with a brown-skinned black woman.
Is that indicative of one hasn't completely done all of the work?
Ha. Who, me?
Because the world that you were describing and the mindset you're describing is also the same mindset that a lot of LGBT people have had as well, because we were raised to be just as adverse to queerness and to sexuality because of socialization and indoctrination, etc. So a lot of us, coming out of the closet is the result of dismantling the closet. So we were also that way ourselves. And obviously now, if we see other queer people, see representations of same gender loving women, men, trans folk, non-binary folk, intersex folk, etc., of course there's no reaction for those of us who've actually done the work. So I would assume that if there's still like or an ickiness or an etc. there, that healing is still downloading.
I mean, because it's for me it's exposure. For me, it's exposure. So I don't have a lot of interaction with people in the LGBT community that I know about. People who are knowingly gay, lesbian, I don't have that exposure. So I can't develop the same kind of comfort around people that I'm not interacting with. I know I'd have to interact with them to become comfortable, to become deeply accepting to the core. You'd have to, you'd have to expose yourself to them to a degree where you always see their humanity first. Like before your programming, the humanity would have to be there first. Like that's what I'm saying. And I haven't spent that amount of time around LGBT people. I mean, just being honest.
Shout out to my baby father, Deshaun, for the nasty piece of Cash App. Thank you. Thank you, baby father, Deshaun. You guys, all donations can be sent to Cash App and or PayPal. The link is in the description box and it's on the screen, and my moderators also rotate. So that brings me to another point, Arshan, because I've always said for a long time that a lot of the queer phobia, homophobia, transphobia, a lot of the adverse reaction that heterosexuals have toward members of the community have to do with a lack of relationship. And that's important, like you said, because relationship, it furthers one's sense of the other's humanity, which can proceed first before you get to the other aspects of who people are. But I'm also kind of surprised that, healing is still downloading for a lot of y'all, because y'all have homosexuals enough in y'all mouth, no homosexuality, intended, no pun intended. Y'all have homosexuality enough in y'all mouths too at this point to be very comfortable about the, as it relates to the humanity of queer folk.
but I think people talk the most about the thing they understand the least, which is also why the red pill group all spends so much time talking about women, because they don't understand them. Because if they understood them and had access to them, they wouldn't be talking about them the way they were. So I think it's part of the same paradox of I'm unfamiliar with something, it scares me. That fear, I'm a man, I can't feel afraid of something, so I've got to hate it. So like you go through that whole cycle of hating something because you don't understand it. So I mean, because honestly, like full transparency, first time Yellow was over here, I'm like, what's he doing over there? I mean, because I had no familiarity. Then I found out y'all have very.
I've been out of you.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell's going on? But then I was like, okay, they have interesting
Why were you
conversations.
surprised? Like, did you not know him to be that
Nope.
inclusive?
Nope. Had no clue.
Nope.
Had no clue. I mean, because again, my first impression of Yellow was, okay, he's a red pill dude that won't say he's red pill. Like that's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I'm the red pill person that'll say I'm red pill. He's the red pill person that won't. I'm like, but I'm used to that. A lot of people don't know that they're red pill, like, because it's just I'm coming into a knowledge that I don't like. I don't accept it. I reject it, and it makes me angry to some degree. And I think there's a lot of dudes that feel that, even though they don't like the label. And so I was shocked, but then as I listened to y'all, first like Ghost Watch, I'm like, okay, what's going on? I'm like, what's he doing over here? Is he trying to communicate something subtly? But no, you are. First of all, he saw your humanity. He listened. You're all dope personalities, like you're true, authentic humans, and it probably comes from having to struggle against the world to be yourself. So you develop the self that's more robust than most average people. I mean, because you had to fight it, you had to swim upstream to be you. You had more struggle to be yourself.
I always blame all my bad business on God.
Hey, you know, wherever it come from.
I was born fire, and I was gonna be fire. It wasn't nothing that was gonna keep me from being fire. Not the church, not my mama, not my family, not society, and people was just gonna have to live with it. They'll have to live with it, baby. Y'all got to take that up with the Lord.
Yeah.
But to that point, it's funny that you said it about Yellow, because I always tell people I actually attract more straight men than I do queer men. Mm-hmm. Like I attract straight men socially. Most of my friendship circle is made up 98% of my friendship circle is heterosexual men.
Okay.
Men. Yeah. So I don't, maybe it's authenticity. Maybe it's just the fact that, I mean, I'm a real regular smegular person beyond the divinity of it all, beyond the aesthetics of it all. But that's interesting. So what do you think it would take for you to get to ground zero as it relates to as how you frame it, inherent objections? I honestly
think it would take more exposure, but it's also like I have more immediate problems than that. Like I'm not going to put my biases and my personal immediate feelings and aversions on anybody else. Like it's not gonna come a thing where I'm going to discriminate against somebody. Nobody's going to be deprived of anything because of that within me. So it's not something I'm immediately trying to work on. I know it's there. When I feel it, I think through it and I move on from it. So it's not going to negatively impact anybody at this point in my life. But as far as if I wanted to heal that wound or clear that programming out, it would be exposure. It would be interfacing with the community in a more interactive way. Like whatever that meant, it would just be spending more time. So that my first response was seeing the humanity and the culture of a group of people that I don't readily identify with.
Yes. Okay. So do you need the type of exposure that encompasses me pulling your head deep into my bosoms and just holding you there until you feel normalized?
Girl, now here you go spreading that gay agenda.
Just like you should. My bosoms are always available for all folks still working.
Appreciate it. Still working. Appreciate it. No. Don't need to be bosom buddies.
Shout out to my baby mother, Leslie, who says, for you have gentle energy with a smooth masculinity. Very sexy. Thank you, baby mother. Reckless, anything you want to say to that before we move into Funny Mike tonight?
As of right now, no, I'm good. I'm over here trying to get the yawn and all this other stuff. I'm trying to see. I'm still trying to wake up over here.
Okay. So can I say something? Like, too,
yeah.
when people talk about masculinity and femininity, this is kind of how I see it. Mm-hmm. You remember how you and Reckless came over to Black Man Unfiltered channel? Mm-hmm. Everything in me that observed that conversation, the two of you were far more masculine than anybody up there. But to the audience, everybody would have said the inverse because of tone, speech pattern, or the way, gesticulation, like the way you gesture. They would have called you two more feminine, but I saw the opposite. I saw the things that are attributed to manhood, being able to stand with courage, to be able to speak your truth, like all the things that would traditionally be assigned to masculinity, you two embody, as opposed to them with their frailty, their emotionality, all that stuff is not typically known as being masculine. So like that's what I mean.
You're referring to their bitch assness.
I mean, I'm just that, you know what I'm saying? But that's my problem with the whole using masculine and feminine is let's just call people the trait that they're showing. Yeah, we're showing two people who are strong, who are self-assured, who are confident. That doesn't mean they're masculine or feminine. They're confident, they're self-assured, they're all of those things. Let's just call it that, qualify them as the qualities they have, as opposed to trying to call it masculine or feminine. Because it doesn't matter whether you're gay, straight, transitioning. None of that matters if you have a person of high character, if you have a person of low character. Gender expression really doesn't matter.
Ooh, but it matters to our Black and brown people for some reason.
Man,
they would really prefer someone of a low character who traditionally called masculine than
it's crazy.
Somebody of high character who is a flaming queen like myself.
It's crazy.
Like Bootsy. Yeah. Oh, so, I was gonna say this though. The thing is that when I was watching the video, Arshan, it was just that I understood you guys were in terms of like adding more nuance. But only thing I was, because I'm gonna be honest with you, because I had just came into y'all live, and it probably did not help that my package had got sent back to Amazon, baby. It pissed me off. So when I came came in, and I was like, okay, I said, now here we go. Now here we go. I said, now here go Joe Budden. But the thing is that you guys were adding more nuance compared to speaking to Joe Budden. Joe Budden, that homophobia was very much present. Essentially, what he was saying is that this is, even though they're showing this is what the different types of men are, or what this masculinity is, I'm gonna use the comparison of a man sucking another man off, because while we as men in that conversation with Melissa Ford know what masculinity is, but however, I'm gonna also use an example of what masculinity isn't, because also in that statement he said yes. So when men act like real men, and then he said da 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 da. And that's why I was like, oh, not queer people don't call it stray. Because he was trying to use us as a way to still make his point. Not saying his point is not valid, but don't try to use us as a way to make your point.
Yeah. I get that.
I don't think his point is valid at all. I think anytime you make sexuality, anytime you make masculinity and femininity about anything other than attributes and characteristics, you have missed the mark terribly, because I just had a masculine man sucking my dick last night.
There we go.
This bitch.
Reckless. I don't know if you're comfortable with talking about your what your occupation is. Can I?
Oh yes. Yes, I'm in the military, and I also work in a corrections facility.
Okay, he works in a correctional facility. He's dominating other men literally every day, and he is also in the military. And this is a man who knows how to shoot, hunt, kill on sight, and who is putting his life on the line for this country every day, and yet also douches his anus 3 times a week.
Okay.
Girl, shut the fuck.
And it's also known as the head doctor of the South. So anytime we attribute these two universal polarities to anything other than attributes and characteristics, we have gone completely off the goddamn Richter scale, because You can be feminine in leadership positions. You can be masculine in subservient positions. You can be all of those things, because what we're not even talking about is per se behavior, more so than we are talking about a bunch of fucking ideas that we are trying to make biological. We're trying to make ideals biological. We're trying to make characteristics biological. And I know IG is very good for reminding everyone that this is the only place we do this in anyway, is amongst society, because when you look out into Mother Nature and animal kingdom, you see the opposite as it relates to the feminine in Mother Nature. The feminine is protective, oftentimes the fighters. They're the ones protecting their babies. They have no codependency and reliability upon the male. Matter of fact, they even sometimes might off the male after procreation, after inception. So, you know, you don't see these ideas reflected anywhere else exclusively but society. But moving along. Funny Mike. I don't know who the fuck Funny Mike is. This is my first time hearing about Funny Mike. I saw him in the blogs a few days ago. He went viral from a clip that I assume came from a live stream he did. He's an online personality, online comedian individual. And he was doing a live stream, and his son was playing with a female toy or playing a female game. And he kind of chastised his son for doing so. And here is that beautiful being footage here for those who have not seen it. And we're going to read some of the comments as well. All right, check this out, you guys.
Man, that's a girl toy. What you doing with a girl toy, damn it? I don't give a damn what you had. You don't play with no girls' toys, boy. Didn't I tell you that? Come here. What I told you? Don't play with what? Leave that shit alone. If I turn you into a pack, boy. What clip that was, gang?
Okay, so let's watch that one more time. Oh, hold on.
I got girl toys.
And what's funny here is that the daughter, as young as she is, she can barely put a whole sentence together, but she damn sure could put "he playing with a girl toy" in one complete sentence. Even she knew that he was quote unquote doing something he should not be doing, which is fascinating that at her age. She knew that this was somehow abnormal, that this was not right, that this was something that he wasn't supposed to be doing. And it goes to show how soon indoctrination and socialization starts. That even before these babies can even, you know, tie their shoelaces independently, they already understand the line of demarcation between men and women, that this is literally a part of their social script. And I find this to be interesting, considering that when you see queer people with kids, or you even see queer so-called children, the conversation always is, why can't the children be the children? But nobody indoctrinates the children more deeply and more problematically. And nobody gets started on trying to induct adult ideas into children faster than the dominant society. I mean, my conversations as a young male around, even had I had my first piece of pussy, was being asked to me at 9 years old by my uncles, by men in the community, etc. Girls already being caught fast at 7 and 10 and 11 before they've even hit damn puberty. We see all of these adult projections that are normalized in society. And then once again, when we get to queer people's proximity to children, or queer children, we want to protect the kids, keep the kids innocent, keep them free of these pollutions, but we don't keep that same energy around all this other socialization that they're subjected to. But let me go ahead and let this clip play one more time, then I'll get you guys
They're not going to.
Man, that's a girl toy. What you doing with a girl toy, damn it? I don't give a damn what you had.
And it's
You
the
don't play with
passion.
the girls' toys, boy. Didn't I tell you that? Come here. What I told you? Don't play with what? Leave that shit alone. But
He looks so disappointed too. He looks so disappointed.
into a pack, boy. What clip that was, gang?
And baby, she is salivating at getting his ass in trouble, baby. That little mischievous, the fucking Omen Bride of Chucky ass smile she had on her face, baby. She was living for it all. So he did come back and respond, and this is what he had to say in response to the quote unquote backlash he got.
About playing with girl toys. Hey, it's my fucking son. I don't want him playing with girl toys. Raise your kids how you raise your kids. I don't give a fuck how y'all feel. Straight like that. Some people ain't raising their kids at all. I'm gonna raise mine how I raise them. Yeah. On shade routines, for me getting on MJS about playing with a girl toy. I don't want my fucking son playing with no girl toy. Then I talked to my son because he ain't gonna be so cultured. I talk to him like that because that's my son. Let me father him how I father. He gonna be a man. Yeah. I ain't posting nothing else. Shady routines y'all down bad because I ain't posting nothing else this week about a nigga. Nigga hit 100K on Twitch, 200K on Twitch. I ain't post that. Y'all just post one. I'm telling my son not to play with a girl toy.
Who in the hell put this damn Starving Kids in Africa as soundtrack over this damn clip for one? Reckless, what are your thoughts?
Girl, you know, everybody always claims to be inclusive until they get tested in different scenarios of how inclusive they really are. But I will say this is that to go piggyback off of your point, it's not shocking to me. Yes, it's very interesting. It's very fascinating of how deep and how early the indoctrination goes. Because at one point in time, I used to work in a restaurant. I was a server, and I used to always like how to have like situations where sometimes the husband would be like kind of, I'm gonna say a little flirty or whatever, but it was very subtle and shit like that. Or sometimes the children, they'll like say inappropriate comments and all this other stuff. Cool. So one day I'm going to my table. I got this big giant party, which is like a party or like a group of like, I'm gonna say 15, 20. And it's like late at night. So girl, they turning me every which way but loose. But I'm on top of it. I got it. So as I'm sitting here minding my business, trying to get their drinks and shit, all of a sudden I hear in the back, it's like right behind me. All of a sudden I hear one of the kids, "Are you gay?" You bastard. Let me tell you something. Because the thing is this, is that's the reason why in different conversations, for me personally, I don't be want you to hear. And I'm so quick to shut down. Oh, the children got to be children. And that's a lot of times when people see a different side to me, because it comes to the point of shut the flying fuck up. Because what irks my spirit is that people want to tell queer people and then try to weaponize the children. That it's not even like a legit claim. You're trying to weaponize the children, trying to preach and be on your soapbox and tell people the children need to be children and yeah. But in the same breath, no one takes issues with taking your children or taking children into a church, into a temple, into different organizations that teaches them to hate other groups of people. Yes, we can talk about Christianity. Yes, we can talk about all the different religions and philosophies, etc. But if we want to talk about it, we could also talk about the very teachings that are very much dominant in those spaces. It's not a coincidence that children at this young age can, because that's the reason why it irks my spirit when people also say, "Oh, I don't know where they learned about this gay stuff from," because whether you realize it or not, you teach them indirectly. Because the gag is, because when you tell them not to do something and why not to do it, also comes with an attitude. Pay attention in the video when he said, "I don't want you playing with girl toys." You tell the son already knew he was kind of in trouble. And in addition, he didn't want to move towards his son, towards his father, because he had a feeling that he was going to get some physical repercussions or etc. And what that teaches the son to either one or two things: not be himself, or a combination of things, not be himself. This is where society has to take responsibility, because now they want to demonize people like DL men, or demonize people that not truly being themselves, but then yet we socialize them on a daily basis. Not saying that child is or isn't, but we want to put people in a box, and then we're shocked and surprised and confused when shit comes to the forefront that we didn't know anything about. And so yes, that shit was full of shit.
I want to add, and then I'm gonna get Arshan up in here, is, I think what tugs at my wig is just literal blatant hypocrisy of it all. I would be so fine with, my kids, I do what I want. Keep that same energy when people are doing what they want with their trans children too. Because when Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle are raising their trans daughter, and when other parents are embracing their trans youth and allowing them to be who they are, there's all this objection. And I always call this hypocrisy out when it comes to the dominant society, who wants to have a say-so over everybody else and want the luxury of doing what they desire, though, without feedback, without correction, without suggestion, without etc. The issue with dominant society is they want total agency in their lives, and they also want total agency in everybody else's motherfucking life. So I'm cool with the attitude of, this is my child, I will raise them how I want. Keep that same energy when queer people are raising children. Keep that same energy when straight folk who are on the progressive, loving, sane, healthy side are allowing the humanity and creative expression of their trans youth, of their same gender loving children, of their feminine children, of their tomboy children, etc. Arshan, what do you think about the clip and the response?
Nah, the response was stupid. I hate when people have stuff out on the internet and don't expect judgment. Like that's the dumbest part. That's what I really hate, when people don't post anything on social media if you don't expect people to have a reaction to it. And trying to choose, well, they didn't react to the positive stuff. That's not the way the internet works. So I mean, that's the first part. But to the video itself, what I really hated to see, and you pointed it out, was that little girl. Nobody was playing with that little. First of all, it's a tablet. That's the first part. It's a tablet. There is no boy tablet and girl tablet.
I think he was playing like a girl game or something on the tablet.
And what would a girl game be?
It might have been Barbie or some type of female oriented.
Just because it had girls in it, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have had the pleasure recently to play a game on Roblox called Dress to Impress, where all you do are style models, do the hair, the makeup, and I'm a guy, and it's okay. It doesn't make you anything. It doesn't turn you into a woman. Doesn't turn you into a LGBT person. It doesn't change you at all. It's just a game. The same way games don't turn people into mindless killers, they don't turn them into Call of Duty soldiers. Otherwise, the military would love everybody play Call of Duty. It does not actually teach you to shoot. Driving games do not teach you how to drive. It does not work like that. So, like, I wish we could get rid of that. It's just a tablet, a girl game. But you pointed out the girl, and this is the most heartbreaking part of this, is that he's already taught the daughter how to weaponize gender against that boy. He's going to grow up always afraid of doing something girly. There's going to be a whole lot of anger. People in the chat were just talking about that. The anger that he's going to have around gender now. He's going to always have to police himself. Am I doing anything gay? Am I doing anything feminine? He's always going to have that presence, because he's going to get yelled at or hit. Because to me, that's abusive language for something, just picking up a tablet. Like, that's crazy. Yelling at him and cussing at him for picking up a tablet. So,
it wasn't for picking up a tablet. It was for doing something that the father considered to be feminine.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, that he considered feminine, but that feminine act was picking up the tablet and playing some girl game or something. Like, that's so minor. That's so minor. He wasn't even playing with Barbies. He wasn't even trying to dress up. He wasn't in mama high heels. He wasn't putting on lipstick. Like, any of the things that might be more visible, more tangible, it was none of that. If nothing else, a video game would be a safer place to see some things and to explore some things. I would rather the boy play a game if you're going to talk about all of the gender expression and you're going to police it. It's contained into a tablet. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if it's contained into a tablet, even if you're hyper vigilant and homophobic, let that be the thing. He's in a tablet. It's just a tablet. It's just a game. It's not a GTA. He's not killing anybody. It doesn't have there's so many worse things. But again, his daughter, who isn't even 6, has learned to weaponize gender. He is weaponizing gender. Everybody is used to this. Nobody moved. The mom didn't say anything. Like, it's tragic that this is what he's going to grow up. Like, this is what he's going to see his entire life. So, like, that's the worst part. He's going to grow up his entire life like that, and he got emasculated. Go ahead.
He got emasculated. You sparked a thought when you said something earlier, Arshan, that made me think about, like, it's interesting how we don't consider policing your children's sexuality as predatorial, because I consider it grooming. And I find that type of grooming just problematic, and I think it's very inappropriate. Like, why the fuck would you be in this? Why would you be this invested in the way even your own child wants to show up in their skin, if they're comfortable with showing up in whatever way? And can everybody mute, because it's like like sound and stuff. Oh, that was the Sean ass with that AC. It's predatorial. You know, I've never looked at my younger brother or my nieces and nephews and thought to concern myself with their masculinity, femininity, and or even their sexuality. I literally find it so uncomfortable because I feel like that's not an area that is of my business. I don't think it's anybody's business. And I don't know why parents can imagine themselves conceiving of who their children will grow to be attracted to or to walk down the aisle with. And I don't understand. The only way, I mean, I can understand why they're not bothered by it, because this kind of goes back to that parental narcissism that I talk about a lot, how a lot of parents have a very authoritarian philosophy when it comes to parenting, to the point that the lines that should be there do not exist, because when you are of a authoritarian attitude, the entire territory is yours. The entire kingdom is yours. It's yours to do as you will in, to do what you want in. And because children are oftentimes looked at as personal chia pets and mannequins for parents to project all of their ideals and hopes and wishes upon, they find nothing inappropriate a lot of times about the areas that they are majoring in, that they really should be motherfucking minoring in. But I think it's grooming. I think it's grooming at best. And I'll kind of get more into my talking points later on, but I want to get Todd in here as well. Todd, welcome to the platform. Your initial thoughts about the video that you just saw.
Yeah, it's thank you once again, Conscious. Like I said, I enjoy watching your live streams because, again, you know, I learn a lot from your live streams, and it's able to help me put into context things that I've learned, especially in communications, right? Because in communications, we don't really look at the actions, we look at the communicative processes behind the actions, right? And it reminds me of this course that I took, in which case the whole entire thesis is that communication creates gender. Gender does not create the communication, right? So therefore, we look at the communicative processes between him and his son, right? Which is very interesting. And what we tend to find out that a lot of the socialization and social developments that come from the communicative processes form the individual itself as they get older. And these are myths, right? Because people change because they come in contact with different forms of communication, right? Which definitely makes sense. This is why people, for example, tend to break away from the church as they get older, right? Because as we start coming in contact with people and the way they communicate is vastly different than how we grow up, and to assimilate in environments, we have to change.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just the fact. We have to change. People in the military, this happens with people in the military, for example. I did 22 years, right? You come in contact with multitudes of cultural experiences, different people, and as a result of being in a melting pot where you have to essentially work to get along with people, you learn to put your implicit biases aside for the mission, right? So therefore, you become normalized to change. And a lot of people are just not normalized to change, you know, or they try to keep people from being normalized to change until they get outside of an environment in which they can now thrive socially, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. It does. Rashonda, your phone or connection keeps going in and out of. Deshaun, who I'm about to get to, also brought up an interesting point that I'm going to show you guys. It's also the blatant hypocrisy, Todd, because while he's teaching his son that there are things allocated for girls and things allocated for boys, why didn't he keep this same energy when he's in this wig? Funny Mike! What the fuck are you doing? You're a boy, Damon. You're a boy. Take it off. The fuck? Isn't that what you told your son to do? Why are you prancing around in things that are allocated toward women? And we can see he's in the women's section. He's in the women's toilet. Look at the gowns, the beautiful gowns behind and beside him. So it's the mixed messaging for me, Deshaun. Your thoughts?
Pro-cis it pre-cis. That's all I got to say. I mean, this is hilarious because the thing is, you're the same person. And it's not just the wig. He also played gay, opening the door, had the gun, playing gay like, hold up, this is a shootout. And all that other stuff, but yet you are the same guy that did all of those freaking gay pranks, but you're doing the same thing to your son, and it's just a doll, but you're doing all of this shit. But now what if your son looked at these videos of you wearing a wig, he was wearing some kind of girl clothes too. His dad was wearing girl clothes too. Now, what if the son see that? Now, if he grows up, he's like, Dad, what the fuck were you doing? You told me that I'm not supposed to be playing with dolls, but look at you, nigga. Now, that'll be a surprise. That'll be really interesting. Because the thing is, you're the same person that do that. Like, and what I don't understand is, why do straight people try to do all this shit? Like, try to play with wigs, wearing a dress. You said it was an agenda. You said that men are not supposed to be wearing a dress, but you said it was an agenda. But you're doing the exact same thing. You're debunking what you're saying. Look, you're contradicting what you're saying. You're literally contradicting what you're saying. See, the thing is, this is all a kamikaze confused energy. That's exactly what it is. This is confusing. Absolutely confusing. You're using a gay energy and you don't even know what gay is because you hate yourself so much to the point where you're using gay, but then you hate gay people, but you're acting it.
For profit.
Well, this is also deeply patriarchal, if you ask me, Arshan's favorite word. because
The patriarchy.
I hate y'all.
because it's interesting how femininity is a reduced to just a sexual object, a helpmate, or reduced to just sheer mockery, but can't be something that's truly revered and something that's truly honored. And even with this whole like fake ass fear of femininity from male's perspective, what happens to all of that contagiousness when men also proceed forward in romantic relationships and actually deep dive sexually into the feminine and even cohabitate with the feminine? All of these politics go out of the window. You now live with a woman. You're raised by women. You live and cohabitate with sisters. I don't understand the intelligence behind the attitude that sexuality is contagious or that you can make someone queer. Because if that's the case, every man who ever had a sister should also be bisexual at the very least. Every man who was raised in a household with a woman, whether that be his mother, his stepmother, or he was raised by his sister or his grandmother, should be bisexual in the very least. It's just, they can never get the complete science of it down to the ground. But I also am disappointed that he doesn't have more woke folk around him, because I would want somebody to make him do the work and ask him, what is it about femininity that makes you feel like it's a deficit to your own masculinity? Like, because obviously what he's doing to his son is a projection of his own consciousness. What exactly is that? But then that's even confusing, because to Deshaun's point, he's prancing around in girl clothes and dresses and wigs, etc. So these politics of his don't even truly stick. And that be my real whole thing about the dominant society, is a lot of this hoopla about same gender lovingness, transness, femininity, masculinity is bullshit. The whole conversation is bullshit. The whole socialization is bullshit. The whole gay agenda narrative is bullshit, because they don't even uphold these politics and rhetoric when it all comes down to it. At the end of the day, themselves. Once again, we're talking about the same men's community that is, let them tell it, very homophobic, very teen masculine, but at the same time make an exception for lesbianism or bisexuality amongst women's community. Encourage their women to let them have threesomes and to open up the bedroom door. Encourage the scissoring and the lint licking and the carpet munching of it all. Like, we continue to see these hypocrisies all up and through the rhetoric of it all.
I'm losing brain cells.
Queen.
Liquor.
Hey, boo.
Hi.
Okay, so I see it from two different ways, and I have to call out a few people on, not on this platform, but just in general from what I've seen. So I believe that, you know, from inception, if we talk about the identity of, you know, putting identities of LGBTQIA plus community upon children, that started years ago. If you let's just look at how toys are made. You have kitchen sets for little girls. They just recently in the, you know, modern day started making kitchen sets for little boys. It was so problematic for years, but they've always made it a difference between boys and girls. So that's part of the issue as well. Now, let's look at this situation with Funny Mike and his son. I believe that there is a defense mechanism that he is partaking in right now. And here's why. When you look at the situation with his son, I think he feels the need to defend that because of how social media and the world views LGBTQIA plus community. Let's look at Ari and Jada Waita's son. Their sons are younger than Funny Mike's son. They're already being called gay. And Jada Waiter was just online arguing with the LGBTQIA plus community because they've been calling her son gay. Now, when people feel like they have to put a identity upon children, that's problematic. Number one, these children are not even old enough to even really be considering that. Now, I know people can say, oh, I was born this way. That's, people will debate that forever. I'm not here to debate that.
I'm
But
definitely I was born this way gay.
Yes, and see, that's what I'm saying. So everybody has their own opinion about how people are born. But when it comes to, you know, putting these identities on children, I think people do feel the need to defend that because of how it is viewed. It's so problematic with people just feeling the need to put that on somebody. And once people say this is who you are, it's hard to shake from that. Let's look at Shannon Sharpe and what's going on in the news today. He's been saying for months and Sundays, you know, he's not gay. All we've seen is a picture of him sitting next to who he said is his stylist, who kept him looking nice, might I add. But the world has already deemed this man gay.
Hold on, so what's the conversation that happened today? What happened today?
Okay, so basically Matt Barnes is putting Shannon Sharpe on blast, saying that Shaq is supposedly putting money out there to find out if he's gay. Because like with Shannon Sharpe and his stylist, they're saying allegedly they were together because because he was sitting courtside. But that's the problem. Once that identity is put on you and you're saying you're not that, it's hard to get away from that. People feel the need to defend that. And I think that there is a shaming that does come with that. I have to call out T.S. Madison. I love her to death.
Oh God.
Yes, I do. But I have to call her out because in this point is fitting.
So what happened?
Okay, so with Shannon Sharpe, she was like, I do believe he's getting busted down. How can you say that, T.S. Madison, from a picture? You cannot say that. You can't say that.
Yeah, I agree.
I just feel like it's not fair to put any identity on children. Children should be children-like. Because a child is playing with what seemingly is a feminine toy or a girl toy, how do you determine this child is gay? You can't do that. And the problem is, it's nothing wrong with being gay. It's the stigma and the shaming of being gay. I think that's the problem too. And I do have to put some of that on the LGBTQIA plus community. I've witnessed, people of the community say, well, I know this little boy when he grow up is going to be gay, or I know this little girl when they grow up is going to be gay. You can't say that. Let people determine who they want to be when they are of age and ready to decide. I also want to touch on the fact where you were talking about D. Wade's child. When it first came out, the news about Zaya Wade, I was in full-on support. I was like, this is a father who loves his daughter. He is defending her at all costs. I don't have any issues with it. And yes, I'm saying daughter for the people in the chat because respectfully, that is how Zaya Wade, chooses to be viewed. I have to respect that. But where it became problematic for me was where it was seemingly being exploitive. I had like an issue with the fact that D. Wade came out and was like, well, oh, yes, I waited to, tell this news when I was selling my book because I knew how it would be viewed. As a parent, if you support your child with love, you should be ready to, be proud with your child, period. Why does it take for you to sell a book to be proud about who your child has come out to you, that's who they are? That's where I felt like, this is a little exploitive. You're trying to make money off of this. I wasn't here for that. But yeah, that was
I have another view with that. I feel like he didn't wait to accept her for the book. Obviously, the acceptance came way before the book came. But I think because him, Gabrielle, and Zaya understood the assignment, that they are a celebrity family, and that there's opportunity in what's happening in their family, aka Zaya being trans, that there was a coordination around doing that in a way to also not only to do that to help what they know is going to be a big topic of conversation and controversy amongst the Black and brown community, and making sure that they operated in a way that was productive, because a lot of members of the Black and brown community still don't know how to deal with Black trans youth or same gender loving youth. I am probably I'm one of the people that actually really love what Dwayne and Gabrielle did with the trans phenomenon happening in their household.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was exploitive at all, but
I'm saying based on the book part. The book part was a little exploited for me.
Even with the book part, like I just feel like, considering how deep the issue of queerphobia is in the Black community, I can also understand like the strategy, the strategizing of it all, because I think they wanted to also break up some of that monotony. But nonetheless, okay, so going back to the kid thing, because here's my issue, Queen, and I don't know how more straight men and women don't take issue up with like anti-femininity or anti-masculinity or anti-queerness, because my whole attitude is, when it comes to young people, like when I look at the state of the world now, we got red pill, blue pill, pink pill communities. We have all this quote unquote divisiveness between Black men, Black women, and men wanting women to stay in a feminine ass place and wanting men to stay in a masculine ass place and all of that. And I'm like, y'all do realize that the whole notion that men are from Mars and women are from Venus is literally due to the way that we socialize young people. Like, if you always tell men to stay in a masculine place and tell women to stay in a feminine place, how in the fuck can you possibly believe that they're going to grow up to then be able to cohabitate and to come together interpersonally in a way that's healthy, when you have literally taught them to pledge an allegiance to two opposing sides? And then we wonder why the divorce rates look crazy. We wonder why the rates look crazy. We wonder why the single parent household rates look crazy. We wonder why all of the, like, why when it finally comes together, it becomes a fucking mess when it comes together, because you're literally not even creating a space for the middle and the intimacy and the marriage, metaphorically speaking, of feminine and masculine. Like, boys have a very early start if we also include the feminine into their nurture. Like, I feel like boys should have easy make ovens too, baby. Yes, learn how to cook so you can be cooking for that wife of yours when she get her tired ass home from work and she feel like hovering over a damn stove.
Right.
Yes, learn how to play with girl toys and Barbie dolls so that you can be better suited as a father when it comes to raising your own daughter and doing her hair and styling her. And also, because you are a male and you have a heightened level of what am I looking for? Not estrogen. What's the other one?
Testosterone.
Doing quote unquote girl things helps to referee that what's the hormone that I'm referring to again? Testosterone keeps leaving me. Yes. It helps to referee. It helps to referee testosterone. It helps a man to know how to be gentle, how to employ gentleness. Not that he will be gentle predominantly, but it gives him access to the capability of knowing when to soften up his shit, because, baby, you're doing too much in your aggressiveness. I can't get through that. That don't appeal to me and my feminine energy. Also, with the same thing with women, like, women need to be introduced at a very early age to masculine things as well. They need to be suited on how to fix a pipe, a broken sink. They might want to be they might want to be without a man. They, you don't know which ways people are going to grow up to be as an adults, and all these qualities can be resourceful, and women, because they have a heightened level of estrogen, need access to their internal testosterone or masculinity to help to referee their emotional body. Because when we have conversations about the so-called differences between men and women, and men always be like, yeah, women can spend more time in the feeling part, we kind of get to, the practical or get to the solution. That's really just because of the issue of masculinity and femininity. And so, like in my own experience, if I have young females in my family that are kind of hyper feminine, like they have a baby, their adrenaline be taking them on wild rides, and they're very sensitive, very fragile. I have them spend more time with the males in the family and with the boys to kind of learn that roughness and that toughness to help to kind of balance out and smooth out that femininity that's kind of dysfunctional in that way. When I have young boys in my family that are very like rough-handed and they're very rough, they don't know how to take care of shit, they break every goddamn thing, they're just heavy-handed, I encourage them to spend a lot more time around the women in the family, once again, to learn that gentleness, to learn how to be dainty, because there are things in life that are actually fragile, including people's feelings, including people's egos. It's learning how to be gentle is very important also when it comes to having a quality social life, because you learn how to navigate other people's personalities when you know how to employ compassion and patience, etc. But I just don't understand how we can put men and women on such an opposite end of the spectrum and then expect them to be productive when they finally come together to do co-creative shit romantically, co-creative shit in love or in community, when once again we're not making no space for the other. I would like to get Arshan's perspective on that. What do you think about that, Arshan?
No, I agree with everything y'all saying. While you were talking though, what I can't stop thinking about though is what about the opposite side? Because this is the real world. Everything y'all saying is very beautiful idealistically, but we see how hostile from the comments. And I'm sure a lot of you have experienced the hostility that women and gay people face in the real world. Like it's especially in the Black community. So whether it's from church folk or whether it's from straight folk, there's a lot of hostility. I can see some utility to policing gender expression in our community, because if you go out those doors with certain gender expressions, you can become a target, like to the detriment of your life. And that's just the honest truth.
Why is that a new thing though, Arshan, for Black
It's
people?
not new.
Because being Black is a target. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like,
but within we're talking about in the community.
And we
talking about in the community.
I mean, even in the community, Black is a target. You know, there are Black people that make a distinction between Black folk and niggas. And so even Blackness, you know, is very heavily policed amongst Black folk, very discriminated against Black folk. But you know what my clapback ultimately would be to that, because I've heard that argument too, that, you know, I'm not so much as homophobic, I just know what gay people have to go through and what trans folk have to go through, and that's why I wouldn't want my children to be trans. You know what I would say? You know what I would say to those loving parents? It's misguided anger. You don't then police the queer people, you police the homophobes in the world. That's then where your advocacy comes into play at. That's why you then go out of your way to create a better space and challenge other people's transphobia and queerphobia and homophobia. You don't ask, just like you wouldn't ask Black people to be less Black to make white people more comfortable. We don't ask queer people. Not in terms
There's no such thing as code switching.
Not in terms of a genuine solution, like
respectability politics.
When we're getting into the solutions of it all, we are not going to solve the issue of prejudice by asking the people who are the victims of prejudice to not be who they are for the comfortability of those who project their prejudices. We have to keep our foot on those heathens instead. So as
idealistic,
as poetic and ideal and romantic as it sounds so fluffy, like, oh, I don't want them to be gay because of that. No, bitch, go change homophobes then. Go put your foot on homophobia. Go put your foot
That's
on
not realistic. That's not realistic.
It is realistic because we do it all the time. Our advocates do it. We do it as queer people. Progressive and liberal people do it every single day. And it gets challenged and clapped back, like we see this administration clapping back at all of the protective legislation in place for so-called queer folk. But that's literally where the solution is. We can't ask people to not be who the fuck they are in order to avoid violence and to avoid a witch hunt. That's not fair. People should have the right to be their authentic selves, and it's not idealistic to champion behind civil rights causes, because these are the things that make up civil rights advocacy. These are human rights. Like, get the fuck out of people's way, period. Get the fuck out my way. Get out my way.
Everybody. Everybody.
And if I can't tell you to get the fuck out my way, my mama should be telling you to get the fuck out my way. My daddy should be telling you to get the fuck out my way. My grandma should be telling you to get the fuck out my way. You know, somebody should be telling you to get the fuck out the way.
So let me ask you a question, see?
Yes.
When we looked at those comments on the video, why were there still so many people agreeing with them?
No. Agreeing with who?
I'm not, I mean, like,
with Funny Mike.
I mean, you basically are asking
like I'm saying we're not going to remove as much as I'm with you. People should still advocate and fight for the moral thing, the moral high ground. Absolutely, 100%. I'm not saying quit that. What I'm saying is there are people, real time, in the moment. It's much more expedient, not right, not fair. It's expedient to police the one thing that you have control over, which might be yourself, because as a guy, there are expressions that I have to police because I could get mocked, or, oh, he's not showing up, he's not a real man. All that kind of stuff is real in real time, and we do it to ourselves. We police ourselves every single day. And it's also easier to police your one child than it is to go out after all the homophobes who you don't know, you don't have addresses for them, you don't have the numbers. So it's idealistic to say, no, go out and police all the homophobes, that your son has a clear passage through the world. That's not realistic.
It is realistic because everybody runs to social media to do everything else. How about finally use social media to do something righteous? Whether it's champion behind women having the right to wear their titties out like Megan Thee Stallion on a red carpet, or women's right to an abortion, or queer people's right to marry, to adoption. Literally, we have representation and advocacy in the higher places of the land, literally trying to mold legislation even in the form of those advancements. I mean, our whole freedoms as black and brown people today are off the backs of black folk who had to get in the paint. So it's not like you're saying this is idealistic, as if your own liberty and luxury now isn't off the backs of people who said, no, this is not unrealistic. And if it takes us going to face off with the police state and with the government and with the Klansmen and with everything in sight, bullets, bricks, dogs, water hoses, etc., then that's what we're going to do for the only thing that is actually right. It's just that what you're talking about is a society that is still in part largely lazy. And so it just seems easier to ask queer people to lay the fuck down, just like it feels easier to ask women to just lay the fuck down, ask black men to just lay the fuck down. But if we do that, then what's the alternative? If we don't apply the pressure to homophobia, if we don't challenge people about their beliefs and their ideals, then what's the alternative? What's the healthy other alternative? Because leaving things as they are only is going to lead to another part of the community that y'all love to drag and put y'all foot on, which is the down low community. The down low community is a response of a lack of advocacy. The down low community is the product. It's what happens when we do absolutely nothing but leave the circumstances as they are.
Can I chat in? And also,
yes,
the reason why the down low community is also so big is because they were children too, that they couldn't be gay as well because their fathers threatened them, if you ever be gay, I'm gonna kill you, or if you ever be gay, I'm gonna do something to you to get a hoe up in this bitch, to do whatever. So there's a lot of things that's into play with that, and then they get scared, and through their lives they become bullies over gay people because when they're teens, because they, when they grow up, they're like, they're already sexual deviants because they already went through their fathers and all that other stuff. They're already sexual deviants already, and when they grow up through the lessons of life. But then they still have an attraction to the same sex, even though they're with a woman. And women are also complaining that my boyfriend is DL, my husband is DL. Oh my God, there's so many lists of women that are talking about their boyfriends being gay. And the thing is, a lot of people can't accept that these men are out here doing destruction to the gay community and the straight community. And here we are now talking about all this other stuff. It's like, when are we ever going to teach our kids that this is who you are? Fine. But I understand if they're overdoing it, then you can teach them that. But it's like, it's not the sexuality. It's not the sexuality. It can't be. I mean, it's not. Why is it got to be the sexuality that's always a problem? And the thing is, they don't have a sexuality, right? They're supposed to grow up to see what, fill out and everything else. But the thing is, they won't allow them to be who naturally they are. The heterosexual community they really hate gay people. I'm just going to be real straight up.
Can I say something to that?
When they are little kids.
Can I reply to that?
Yes, go ahead, Queen.
Okay, so while what was the person's name that was speaking? I just want to make sure I acknowledge him.
Deshaun.
John. Okay.
No,
Deshaun.
Deshaun.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, well, I do agree with you. I agree with a lot with what you said. But my question to you is, well, I think there's two coins to that. While you're very much right when you say that, there is a lot of unacceptance that comes from that, I kind of disagree with that, because I think now, whether you're gay, LGBTQIA plus community, wherever you fit in that umbrella, I think now, especially we're talking about in modern times, it's more socially acceptable to be in that, in that LGBTQIA plus community than before. And I wanted to ask, what about when there is a shaming that comes from that side? Because whenever a man does choose to deal with a person that's, DL, as CTV was speaking about before, they'll come out and they'll exploit them as a weaponization. So I never hear any call out for that. So what about that?
Okay, well, hold on.
I'm about to say,
hold on, because we're not even going to have that conversation right now. We're going to keep our foot on straight folk, Nick. So we can come back in a separate conversation.
No,
it is fair. Because we don't come to cancer conferences talking about AIDS. We don't come to AIDS conferences talking about sickle cell. So we can come back and focus in on those particular topics. But right now, this is about the socializations that are perpetuated by dominant members of society, every church on this corner. And at the end of the day, let's also be very clear. Just like I always say that there is not one single issue in the Black community that is not without the influence of racism. Make no mistakes about it. There's not one single issue within the LGBT community that is not without the tainting and influence of the homophobia and queerphobia perpetuated by dominant society. All those things, even queer on queer crimes, queer on queer buffoonery, twirl on twirl violence, all of it, twirl on twirl violence, intellectually, twirl on twirl violence, physically, is all a result of internalized homophobia, transphobia, heteronormativity, etc. All of these issues still lead back to the same gatekeepers.
No, you're
right. And just like we have women who participate in misogyny, we have women who vote against their best interests and their own interests because of misogyny. We got raccoons in the Black community who have internalized anti-Blackness within them.
They bootlicking ass.
Yeah, I mean, you see it in every community. So we're not objecting to the fact that there's not community on community.
It's not a clean house.
Foolishness. Yeah, like of course there's in-house fighting, but like all systemic issues,
we have to go back to the office
of those communities. Always go back to the perpetuators and creators of the systemic oppression to begin with.
Hey, Conscious.
Because
hey,
the thing
everybody.
is, like, if we start from 3, then go to 4, 5, 6, we're not addressing the root, and the root would be 1, 2, and with 1 and 2, we're gonna have to address the authors. Who are the authors of said systems? Who are the author of sets isms, like Arshan loves to say? And the thing is that they expect and they want us to address or start from 3, because if they start from 3, while we too busy doing more in-house fighting, and you never did it, you never did it, the authors just sit back and watch their plan unfold. So yes, we're going to address the authors, and we're going to keep our foot on the authors. And I think once we get the authors, or we continue to address the authors, a lot of other people will come to the light, because a lot of people they don't realize it, but a lot of people just don't do things just because. A lot of things people do aren't just because, oh, I thought about doing it and that's just it. No, a lot of these things are a system. A lot of these things do have an origin place. There is a root to a lot of things. That, keep in mind, that's the reason why we tell everybody to go to therapy, because you never know what you may unpack in your everyday life. Most people don't think about every single little action and detail that they do in their life, because at some point it becomes a routine. And with these things becoming a routine or a pattern or a habit, it's a subconscious thing. And so that's the reason why we tell people you have to unpack your philosophies, unpack your thought processes, sometimes pay attention to what you may say or what you may do, because unbeknownst to you, you may be participating in something that you may not be aware of. Like most people that are homophobic on a subtle level, they don't know it. They are not aware, because it's been such a habit for so long. Same thing when it comes to different other systems and stuff. So we have to start from the root.
I would agree.
I had a question for everybody while I'm up here. Hey, Conscious. Hey, everybody. Thank you for letting me on the panel.
Hey, bro.
I had a question. Do you think being deceptive plays a part in it?
Yeah, I can't stand no bootlicking asshole.
What's that?
Go
What
ahead.
happened? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was me, but I'm sorry. But no, do you think being deceptive in any relationship or any friendship or any plays a part of it? The reason why I said that is just like when children, they have, toy, I'm gonna say uns in the store, and they perpetuate and they tell the kids, oh, go get that toy. And later on in life, they ended up with those pows, and they end up, being, doing different things, hurting people. So my question is to y'all, why is it okay for folks to be deceptive about certain things, and other things, when the child gets grown, they have a problem with it? That's my thing, because what I'm seeing is parents putting their trauma onto the kids and saying, well, you shouldn't be like this or you shouldn't be like that. And they end up, having their own mind, growing up having their own mind. That's being deceptive. That's what I'm saying. And they're not letting the children be children no more. You see what I'm saying? It's like they putting these ideas in their head and get mad when they turn out the way they didn't want them to be. So do you think deception plays a part in that?
I agree. That's what I was saying, like with the Ari and Jada Wada situation. Like their kids are way younger than Funny Mike's kid, and they're already I think they were just dancing, like regular TikTok songs, and they were just dancing, and people were in the comments calling them zesty. I mean, they were full on fighting with social media about calling their sons gay. And that's why I was saying the hyper sexualization period amongst children needs to stop. They've even started the thing on TikTok, like if you do hookah, you must be gay. If you drink, they've even sent down to the lemonades and teas, like if you drink certain lemonades and teas, you must be gay. Like, where did this stuff come from? Like I was saying in regards to TS, I don't think that is fair to put, identity upon people unless they tell you. And TS Madison has even talked about this before. She was like, I don't like doing that. It was done to me. She said it was done to her brothers. And, she said we need to get away from doing that. But she did it to Shannon Sharp. And that's why I said we have to just stop being placent of identities upon different people. If a person does not come out and tell you this is who they are, you don't have a right to just assume that or just put that on someone, especially children. Let children be children like. Why are we even concerned with the fact that a young child who is 6 or 7 or 8 could be possibly gay anyway? Most of the times they just want to play with their toys, have their favorite snacks, and play with their friends. They're not concerned about, sex and all of this stuff. It's getting out of control.
It's because of the inherent issue of homophobia, because people believe that that's where that's going to. If I let that boy play with them girl toys, he's on his way to the very thing that I think is preposterous, which is being a homosexual.
But the thing is,
so people are gonna have to literally do the work, and this is why we gotta challenge the bullshit. Because for those of us who are queer on the panel, we know what it's like to not have affirming parents. We know the psychological damage and toll it takes when, and I'll even take it beyond just sexuality and gender identity, just when you're not allowed to be your authentic self. People claim their lives because of this. We have a particular uprise in LGBT youth suicide and self-deletion as a result of bullying, internalized shame, a lack of safe space emotionally, psychologically amongst one's community and household. And so this deficit in queer people's lives, when they are estranged from affirmation from their community, from their family, turns deadly more times than not. And I'm still interested to hear from Arshan if you feel like pretty much, I mean, because what I got from what you were saying is that you feel like people are going to be homophobic. So my question then is, what is the healthy alternative then? Because queer people are going to continue to be born unto the world.
Absolutely. Now, I don't have a... Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just asking, because I don't agree that it's idealistic, because a lot of people do change their minds as a result of education, as a result of being challenged. A lot of parents have had their minds changed just from their children doubling down on who they are. We even have people over here who always champion me for CTV. I couldn't have possibly, came to understand certain things and had a better understanding, and I'm a better person because of bearing witness to your topics in these type of discussions and learning, academically about these issues, and also anecdotally and hearing from queer people about their experiences. So we know that people do change in attitude and philosophy. So I wouldn't say that education and advocacy is fruitless, but you to some degree feel like it is, even though
no.
Okay.
So when you hear me say ideal, what you hear is fruitless.
Yes.
Okay, no. Ideal means most suitable, not fruitless. The best possible outcome is the ideal. So I'm saying that's ideal, like you're being idealistic.
But what do you think is ideal? Like, what do you think is my expectation? Ideally,
your ideal. Now, I don't even know if it's your expectation, but it's your mission to champion and advocate so that people could be who they are, who they're meant to be, who they feel like who they identify as. You want them to be able to grow up in a nurturing, safe environment that accepts them for who they are, how they are. So that's the most suitable outcome for every human being, is to be able to identify who they are for themselves, not because of social pressure, and to get to live that out with support and love and grace and respect. Like that's the what we would like to see. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, that's the ideal. That's the ideal. That's the most suitable outcome that we would all hope to see. What I'm saying when I say it's idealistic, I know humans. I know humans are lazy. I know humans are cheap. I know humans are scared. I know humans are a lot of things, and we don't like to put forth the effort or deal with the discomfort of doing the most ideal thing. Or we wouldn't have Trump in office. There'd be a whole lot of different things. If people were ideal, people that say they were Christian would operate with the love of Jesus Christ. But people don't move in the most suitable. They typically move in the most comfortable. And that's a lot of times what catches people up. What's comfortable for you is, when I used the word expedient earlier, it's quicker for me to yell at my one child to not do this girly thing than it is for me to have to defend my child when somebody outside my walls sees him with a purple tablet playing Barbie. I'm going to have to check my homeboy and my homeboy's cousin and my dad. He going to have something to say. It's easier to check my one child and scare them into submission than it is for me to have to defend them against the entire world's opinions and judgments, especially even online. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that the way people operate is opposite of that. That's all I'm saying.
And you know how I feel about that, because I am also very hard on parents, because I know that a lot of these parents are pussy assholes. To your point, yeah, they would rather oppress their children and get them to conform to whatever is a status quo in order to avoid the pushback from their own community, even though they themselves are supposed to be fully evolved adults who do not bend to the insults and the hyperbolic rhetoric of their community members. So, I mean, I always tell people, if you can't take the heat, and stay the fuck up out the kitchen, because these queer kids didn't ask to be here, but you damn sure put a dick in it, or you put your dick in it.
But the thing, Conscious, is that kids also know about the F-bomb too. So where are they getting that from? They're getting it from their parents.
Of course.
So because the thing is, the thing is, I want to know is, why are these children saying all these bad words in these schools, such as you're an F-bomb if you do this, if you do that? Because the thing is, they probably was doing something that the parents or the brother or the cousins didn't like. And it's kind of like, ooh, you're an F-bomb or something like that. And that's also why they're also labeling a person that's not even supposed to be labeled. So they bring that to the school, and if they see that of someone that is different, they're going to bully that person.
Well, I will tell you this, right?
It happens in school all the time.
Well, I will tell you this.
That's what it is. It happens in those schools all the time. And I listen, I was in school. Trust me, that happened. It happened. And other people as well that's either feminine. Oh, those boys would be talking negative about them. Definitely. You better.
Well, I can tell you this, right? First, let's look at it like this, right? Gender communication kind of happens on 3 levels, right? The individual, interpersonal, and of course on the societal level. What they're not understanding on the societal level is that fixed biology norms, there's no such thing as that. And they're trying to fix it, and you cannot fix it, and therefore it creates conflict. Yes, you can have man and woman. That's a very easy concept, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to biologically fix identities, and you cannot do it, and that creates conflict. That's where the whole issue is. And they're doing it through social construction. Religion is social constructive. That's gender theory.
Social engineering.
Absolutely.
Politics.
And I wanted to add something as well. You know, a lot of times children see a lot. Okay, they see a lot. And they don't understand that their children are a second version of themselves. And I think part of the problem is that a lot of these people that claim to be parents, they don't like themselves, so they take it out on the children. You get what I'm saying? And they get mad, like, where you get that from? You got to be an example for your kids, your children, because you don't know if that's the next future lawyer, doctor, whatever. And children mimic what they see. You see what I'm saying? If you're gonna teach your children to be a bully, you can't get mad when somebody bully your children. You see what I'm saying? It's like, oh, don't do what I say, do as I do. You know, it's kind of like that. And I'm like, wait a minute. You can't get mad at somebody for being the way they are when you the one who taught them that specific thing. You see what I'm saying? So if your children go up there to the school and they start acting up, you got to remember how you would. And that's the problem that people forget. You don't want your children to do something or go out in the world and do something they may regret. You got to be an example for your children. You get what I'm saying? It's like
a part of being an example is them not doing exactly what Arshan is saying that a lot of people are doing, which is being idealistic. Because see, the quintessential issue with being fantasy prone is that it eliminates all of the reality. So you're never actually prepared for the reality. And when people have children, they enter into a fantasy of who they want their kids to be. And they think it's as an edited, refined, reformed version of themselves. And then they only look to that. And then when their kids demonstrate the contrary, then the unfitness of parenting comes into play. The resistance, the defensiveness, the ignorance, the improper disciplinary actions, all of that shit comes into play. And that's why I always tell people, you got to make being a parent way simpler than that. You actually have to undergo a bit of an ego death before you want to step into that world. Because if you come in with any type of expectations, baby, you might get your feelings hurt real bad by your children who are going to have their own identities. And even if you can kind of subjugate that for a little while, you can kind of oppress that, prohibit that for a little while because they're under your rule. The reality is you're not going to avoid the inevitable because at some point they become adults. And then they're going to have the full autonomy to push back against every fucking thing that you tried to get them to be, whether that be modest, whether that be Christian, whether that be quote unquote your version of successful. They're going to have the full autonomy to push back against it all and to assume what actually is authentically true for themselves. So there really is no real way around it. And even if you get and my God, bless all the kids who grew up to be the adults who went out of their way to live their life, to allow their parents to live vicariously through their incarnation. Because even if as a parent, you successfully altered, edited, and enforced your fantasy of your kid on them, and then they grew up to execute all those things, there's a very dark side to that moon that you may never be aware of, because those also are some of the most depressed, highly functioning human beings in the motherfucking world. Yeah, they may be the doctor that you forced their ass to be and culturally pressured them to be, and absolutely miserable and fucking unhappy and don't know what the fuck to do about the hamster wheel that you put them on. Yeah, they may have continued to perform heterosexuality and got them a husband or a wife, got them beards and the whole nine, and then on the back end, more than likely committing all levels of infidelity with members of the goddamn same sex and hurting some innocent person who could have avoided being a beard had they mammies and they pappies known fucking better and not tried to enforce a sexual orientation or a gender normality onto them. Look at Bruce Willis. I mean, not Bruce Willis, Bruce Jenner, who started off.
I'm about to say, what the hell happened with Bruce Willis?
A lot done happened with him too, girl. He MAGA.
Yeah,
he got
MAGA.
Dementia. He got a whole story too. But Bruce Jenner, who was living alongside the same issue and had a beard, had a whole family, tried to perform maleness in all the ways that he had been taught as a white male, and was pooching around in the midnight hour in his mansion while his wife was asleep in her goddamn beautiful gowns. Pooching around in the midnight hour. one of his daughters, I think it was Kylie or one of them, who said, girl, she kept this a secret for a long time, because one day she woke up in the midnight hour to get her a sip of faucet water, and that's when she saw her father prancing around at 3 a.m. in the morning in her mother's dress, just casually moving about. So he would live this whole cross-dressing life in secret, away from everybody, ultimately until it came to a head, and then he was forced to then live in his truth. And then guess who had to live through the devastation and then realign to a new normal and had to figure out how to navigate that? It was all of the people that he put on our stage with him, which was his kids and which was Chris. And that is absolutely unfair. So I just be here to remind heterosexual folk that you don't benefit from homophobia, baby. You don't benefit from transphobia at all. If anything, you're setting yourself up for the okie dokie, and you're setting your kids up for the okie dokie, because they gotta grow up and get out here and fuck somebody. They gotta grow up and get out here and marry somebody. And you better hope it's not one of these traumatized ass down low members of the fucking community who are going to be plucking them as a stage member in their script, and have to bear them out and take them through this craziness that can be avoided if people would just really get over themselves. And once again, I don't know why this society doesn't feel more uncomfortable than they do with literally grooming your children, I don't care of what age, teenage years, etc., as it relates to their sexuality. Are they gonna be fucking you, bitch?
Conscious, I'm gonna say this too.
No. I want to know. Are they gonna grow up to be fucking you? Because if the question is no, what the fuck is the problem?
But the thing is, Conscious, it's a lot of I'm gonna tell you what it is. A lot of them are scared to number one, being vulnerable. A lot of it's control. They want to control the person's life on how they be. They don't want people to be different. If you're different, something's wrong with you. You got a problem. You crazy and different things like that. My thing is, they want something for others that they don't want for themselves. So they get mad at other people for being themselves and being different. But then, if it's their child, oh, you're not gonna be this way. You can't tell nobody how to be, because when they grow up, guess what? They gonna have a choice of what they want to be. So, and then you want to get, as a parent, want to get mad as if something's wrong with that person. You can't put your views on a child who's trying to be a child and then get mad when they get older. Because what I'm saying is, kids are not allowed to be kids anymore. It's like they putting all these adult roles on them, and they get bad when they get older and want to go back to being a child. You didn't give them the freedom.
I get it, because they get toxic. It's like they put all this toxic energy of a sexual I don't know what it is, but it's like a sexual, already grown energy into the child. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a grooming thing. Like, they're getting ready at freaking 6 or 7 years old. Like, listen, I just saw a video of a stripper. All these boys was like no more than 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, all on the freaking thing. And the stripper was twerking and all that. She had a thong on. They're throwing money at her and all that other stuff. Like, they were already grown, but they like they were 30 or 40, like 20 years old already. They're teens. And the thing is, they had the stripper was all over that boy's face, upside down,
which creates a grooming. You see what I'm saying? So we live in a society now where it's okay to accept bad behavior as okay and right, and wrong. You're wrong if you're doing something right. So the world is backwards. That's what I'm trying to say.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I kind of want to be very compassionate to parents who have LGBTQIA+ children who have not yet come out yet, Because what a lot of people don't really want to understand or even acknowledge is that it's a new experience for both parties, the child and the parent. I don't think that a lot of parents are just wanting to be mean spirited to their kids, but I think it's fair to acknowledge too that there is a hypersexualization fear. They're scared, they don't know how to deal with this. It's a new experience. So are we dismissing hypersexualization fear amongst parents?
I don't think there is. Hold on, like explain a bit more. Like you're saying to the parents who have LGBT kids who have not come out of the closet.
No. Like say, okay, so like in this case, Funny Mike, he basically kind of assumed, you know what I'm saying? He's like, oh, well, you can't play with this because that's girly. You're not gonna be. Yeah, like when he explained it. I'm sorry.
He said he said you're not playing with these you're not playing with these girly toys, bro, because it's soft. That's some soft shit or something like. I don't know.
Right. So basically,
yeah.
Your audio going out, Queen.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah,
I hear you know.
Okay. So basically what he was saying was, in that situation was, I felt like he was basically saying you can't play with this because that's gay. I mean, I'm just reading in between the lines. He didn't directly say that, but that's what I took it as. Am I wrong?
I mean, I think maybe in the unconscious of himself, he's like trying to tell him to stay away from doing girly things because he's going to be perceived as gay, and or maybe, I mean, obviously his dad does associate something other than heterosexuality with a boy playing with so-called girl things. So I don't know if it's a projection of his own prejudice, or rather, I mean, I don't know what's that about, but so
that's like in that situation, are parents not allowed to have a fear of how to deal with a situation like that? Like how to deal with if there is a possibility that their child may or may not be. Because I
would say that parents should have a fear of not getting proper resources and answers to the things that they may be confused about how to handle. So that they don't end up mishandling shit as a result. But that goes back to the foundational issue, which is that there's no license to be a parent. Anybody can be a parent, from a crackhead, a cokehead, a drughead, anybody under the sun in any type of fucked up condition personally can just will children. So because there isn't no licensing regarding bearing kids and being a parent, you have kids unfortunately having to inherit whatever is the product of and the content of the parent. And that's very unfortunate, because back to that word that Arshan was talking about, idealistically, young people and children should actually be born unto whole and healthy, evolved adults. I am not a believer that people should be just popping the kids out of their ass willy-nilly. I am just not someone who agrees that we should continue to be as passive as we've been in this society when it comes to the sacredness and the profound responsibility that comes with being a teacher, which is ultimately what being a parent is synonymous with: being a guide, being a teacher, being a nurturer, because ultimately you are teaching and instilling an attitude into a soul. And either those things are going to benefit that soul and their community members, or it is not. And every time we have a Columbine situation, we have another mass ooting or school ooting, where do we look to for responsibility? We look to the parents. We always bear responsibility on the parent. What the fuck was going on there? How could you miss this? What created this? What led to this? And I think souls are nuclear, and it terrifies me when souls are brought into dysfunctional circumstances, because it only takes one man to overturn an entire nation. One. It only takes one. It don't take many. It only takes one. You think about how powerful Hitler was in and of himself. You think about how powerful Saddam Hussein was in and of himself. Then on the other end, you think about how powerful and influential Christ was, of Martin Luther King was, of Malcolm X was. And so you see the pendulum swinging between the great and the mighty. And when I see the things that humans are capable of on a political level, on a worldwide level, on a national level, even on an anecdotal level, I'm just like, how in the hell can we continue to take this whole parenting thing so lightly? This is some serious shit.
Yeah.
This is some serious
Exactly.
shit.
Exactly. And you know what? We as humans, we are so conditioned that we gonna end up destroying our own self, y'all. I've been said this long ago. You know, if you're not paying attention, we won't. They already said it. We won't be here long because we're destroying our own self. But because of us not working together as a whole, and everybody hating everybody, being mad at each other for being different, not understanding we all bleed the same, and we all are humans. So that's what we all have in common. And if we can't get it together now, we going to end up destroying our own self. I keep saying it. So, you know, like you say, Conscious, you don't want your children to grow up to be Chucky, Freddy, and Jason. Uh,
Mhm.
uh, uh, See, the parents not understanding. You are raising future generations who can end up destroying not only you, but people in your family and beyond.
That's also
So,
why it should be more, therapeutic stuff going on within the school too. It shouldn't just be an education course on LGBTQIA plus communities. It should be a course. Well, it should be like counselors. It should be people that the students can go and talk to. Because like the panel was saying, if a child comes into the school and they're being
I'm gonna
called
tell you
names,
why. I'm gonna tell you why, because that's what the schools were pushing for. But because a lot of people's households are dysfunction,
You
no,
took the words
mhm.
out of my mouth.
it's not. Yeah, parents are not going to green light, baby. They kids getting no therapy because therapy involves telling all of the damn church's business, telling
Mhm.
all of the damn
Mhm.
household's business. So no, because the parents have to control the narrative in order to protect the sick shit that happens in the underbelly and happens back at home. No,
but even if it's not like,
push up against that.
even if it's not categorical therapy, like therapists in the school, it should be like counselors that should be trained in all of those aspects though. Because a regular student, let's just say that they're a regular heterosexual student, they go in there and they're having issues at home, they can go in there and talk to someone. It shouldn't take for a child to be called a name at school to decide to come back and want to, as you say, boot up the school. And now we got dysfunction and discourse over a child that didn't have an outlet. So I mean, what do you think we should do in that case?
I mean, like, don't schools still have guidance counselors? I had guidance counselors in
They
school.
do,
Like,
but they
Yeah.
don't necessarily have those type of conversations because technically, as I was told, they're not supposed to have actual conversations with a child unless the child is saying something happened to them
right.
against their will. So that was my understanding on that.
I mean,
Uh,
ultimately, I think that we're still. I think it's still cutting the monster at its niche rather than its throat, because at the end of the day, what is the real solution? Because it shouldn't be nobody for kids to have to talk to, because their households should be well for the most part, like should be generally
mhm.
well. So
You're 100% right, Conscious, but that isn't always the reality. We know that. Like that's not real.
but
It's
because that's
realistic.
not the reality is why we fail to create alternative systems that end up getting knotted up. Because I remember even just like a year or two ago, they were challenging like this whole child to teacher confidentiality clause, and parents were against that. Parents were pushing against that when it came to school districts, because they want and feel obligated to know what's going on with their kids, and they don't want their kids talking to anybody without them also being informed about the nature of those conversations, greenlighting those conversations and informing those conversations. And then the pushback from the districts is, well, if you, going back to the trans and gay thing, have parents who are homophobic and who are abusing their homophobic and their queer children, then obviously there's a big problem if a child outs themselves to a teacher they trust, but then that teacher is mandated to go and communicate with an abusive, transphobic, homophobic ass parent. That's
it's so unfortunate that there are some parents who, it's just some parents, sadly, that just don't want to understand anyway. And that's what we're up against. A lot of these parents, you have parents that are in their 30s, in their 40s. Hell, some of them are adopting in age 60 brackets. But a lot of these parents just don't want to understand. And that's what we're up against. In a real world, or in a realistic world, should I say, it would be amazing to where every parent is cultured in how to deal with these conversations, is understanding enough to entertain these conversations. But that's not where we lie as a race of humans. It's just not where we are. I wish that children did have more outlets, because, you know, again, it shouldn't take for a child to feel so compelled to end all humanity because they're so unhappy. And that breaks my heart. We just got to get a better resolution. Go ahead.
And Queen, I wanted to say this too. A lot of it is different, different components of this. What I'm saying is, like right now, I'm finna be 45 in a month and a half. Do you know I'm still getting bullied? I had to literally tell someone over a lie now. They didn't come to me. Okay? And they waited till I was sick and waited. You know, this is on social media. So I told them, I said, look, somebody's pretending to be me. I said, if you ain't got sense enough to understand. So basically what I'm saying, some people are conditioned to believe what they want to believe. And in the aspect of bullying and different things like that, they get off on that. They love making somebody feel bad, love making folks, and that's a problem in itself. Have you noticed it's more people getting bullied now, and that's why people are leaving here? Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
I believe it.
So I will tell you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, so what I'm telling y'all is, we got to teach our children, or whether it's niece, nephew, if you're a parent or not, you have to teach your children not to go up and talk about folks and be mean to people. You don't know what that may do to a person. You see what I'm saying?
I'm gonna tell you how I teach my young people in my family, and then talk and get in here is I showed them all the news clips of kids going Columbine. This is what the fuck gonna happen to your ass if you get your ass out here, call yourself being a goddamn bully bitch. So I make my 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds and 11-year-olds, when they get old enough to start getting an ego about themselves, sit their ass right on down. And I show them all of the young people who lost their damn lives to disgruntled classmates who did not take well to being called out of their name, or being teased about their poverty, or teased about their looks, or teased about their list, or teased about their fatness, or teased about their gayness, baby. You got to you teach people by showing them the damage. Show their ass the damage of the end result of the buffoonery of it all. Todd, you were trying to get in here?
Yeah, see, again, the problem is it's a social phenomenon that that actually we've been dealing with this since the 50s, really. And what it is again, the problem is that people understand that there is man and woman, but what they don't understand is that biological identities is not fixed to either man or woman. And that is the whole problem. So what they're doing is completely dismissing the fact that there's a such thing as a gender identity. So until people actually realize that gender identity is actually a thing and that it evolves over time, we're always going to have these issues. And unfortunately, these issues are linked to religion, right? And I'm telling you, we have argued this like daily. I remember one time in class, we argued this for a whole week. And you will be surprised about how many people are not coming off of things that they have been socially engineered and socially constructed to believe. And so there's always going to be a section who goes, okay, gender identity is a thing. There's always going to be a section that says gender identity is not a thing. And if you commingle the two, you have conflict. And that's what the real issue is.
Okay, and you know what? And then I feel like there's a caveat to that, because I'm okay with people who think it's confusion. I'm even okay with the people who think it's morally wrong for a man to dress like a woman, for a woman to dress like a man, for a man to be with a man. I'm actually okay with the belief. What I'm not okay with is people taking their beliefs and then abusing other people and justifying oppressing other people as a result. Because you can have a belief and still say the fuck out somebody's way. A lot of us as adults know how to do that. We know how to say, I don't agree with that, but I respect it. I ain't with it, but I respect it. And I think that's a nice middle ground, is you don't even have to per se change your mind about a thing. As long as you understand, you do have to respect other people's authenticity. You have to respect other people's choice.
And that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying, Conch.
You don't gotta like it at all. You can personally not like it until you're blue in the face, until Jesus calls you home. But not liking something or not believing something also isn't synonymous with open resistance either. Two things could be the same thing. Like I always use my grandmother as an example, who is a Christian, Baptist, Bible-based, Christ-loving, following, believing woman, who also said, despite everything that I know in the Bible and what God believes or what the Bible teaches, I also love you as my grandchild and I support you. She didn't have to give up her beliefs to support my humanity.
There was no wagering. She just loved you regardless.
Yeah, she didn't have to change her mind in order to support my humanity, to encourage my humanity, to permit my humanity. You can have both. You can have your beliefs and still say the fuck up out of other people's way.
Exactly. And it's about respect.
We need to understand that. But see, the reason that we don't is because, to Todd's point, America has literally doubled down on us minding each other's business to the point that you can literally vote your reality into somebody else's experience. You can vote your politics and your worldview into people's experience. That's why so many people will run to those polls to vote for queer people to be oppressed, to vote for women to not have rights, to vote for black people to not have rights, to vote for poor people to not have rights. America has literally socialized and permitted us to be all up in each other's business. That's why we don't understand when we're being out of order. We don't understand when we are crossing the motherfucking line, because America ain't created no goddamn line.
Well, I think a lot of the consensus too is starting to come together, and that, like in that aspect to your point, like with, there being something threatened to be taken from all of these, different communities. I think it's bringing people closer together, because we all understand now, hell, they're trying to take stuff from all of us. It's not just one community. And I wish every person thought like that, but they don't. That's the sad part. We're all losing stuff. Like, they want to take rights from women. They want to stop women from being able to do this and that with their bodies. They want to stop LGBTQIA plus community from being able to get certain healthcare rights. It's mind-boggling how we can all see this and people still have vitriol and hate for people. I don't have a hateful bone in my body. I love everybody as God loves me. And if being who you are makes you great, better, a good person, I would never have an issue with that. But it's just that some people just don't see that. They have so much hate. I don't think that part of it will ever change. But with us coming together and understanding that we're all humans, I don't even like the communities and the labeling. I just wish we get back to we're all human. Because when you think about it, I love the LGBTQIA plus community, but we shouldn't even have to do that. We should just be able to say, I love you. I love you. We shouldn't have to, but this is where we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to that point, Rashawn. So what are the alternatives, Mr. Non-idealistic? What I mean, what are we supposed to do about the fuck shit and the evil and the violence and the oppression and abuse about in the world? What are we supposed to do?
Do what you're doing. It's not an either or, it's a both and. So I mean everybody here should do what they're doing. But understand people like Funny Mike exist. And if he's within your reach, was that each one reach one, each one teach one? That's kind of thing. Like you said, you believe people are teachable. Some are not. And knowing where to cast your pearls is an important thing. And I kind of wanted to your point because you keep talking about the grooming thing.
Yeah.
The grooming thing. I know grooming has taken on a negative connotation, but part of the definition is to prepare, to make someone ready for a specific objective to prepare. You are to prepare and to groom your kids in certain aspects of growth, development, and society. My question to anybody, yourself, CTV, or anybody on the panel, where does this heteronormativity or gender normativity, or even just the understanding of it, where does that take place? Because it does have to be a part of their education as they grow and mature. They are going to have to learn about what's what, who's who, because we have a society that we're a part of. Yes, because we have a society. You just talked about people are able to vote other people's existence into restriction. So they need to understand that what identity they are is a part of that. So
I agree with the list,
yeah.
but orientation, like sexual orientation, should not be a part of that list. I can understand getting your child prepared for sexual experiences as far as being safe when you have sex, using birth control methods and things of that nature.
Okay.
But I think that when you're preparing children, you ought to be preparing them for finances, life events, how to conduct themselves as adults. But when it comes to sexual orientation, I think that should be off the boards, because that is the one thing you don't get to control, especially when they become of age. When they become of age, they can be whomever they want to be. That's not your deciding factor, and it's not your choice. So I agree with the list you mentioned, but just not that part of it.
Now hold on, because now what I didn't say was control them. Well, control is another problem, but they have.
I was just finna say that.
I'm sorry, did I say control? I meant to say like when you were saying like the grooming part, when you were explaining that part. I apologize if it came out wrong.
Yeah. I just want to be clear, because if in the ideal world that's most suitable, any child that you have is still going to need to understand the dynamics of the world in which they're a part of. They're still going to need to understand this, and they're going to be identified by the way that they express themselves, by the way that they dress themselves, by the way that they speak, by the way that they gesture, by their skin tone. All of these identifiers are going to be used to judge them, slot them, and maybe even access or deny access to opportunities. And I'm saying they have to be taught that. And how would that happen in the way that we're all speaking about it today? In this, like, obviously, that's a girl toy. You shouldn't play with that. That's so extreme. I think that's just so foolish that it fits that he was wearing a helmet because he looked like a special needs person as a parent. So he already looks stupid. But going beyond that, what is our way? If we're trying to be compassionate, yes, the child should be able to play with the toys. The boys, now let's say that's not that. What if it's I see my father conscious is wearing lipstick. I want to wear lipstick too, Daddy. Okay, you're 6.
You know,
what do you say?
I cannot.
What do you say? What do you say?
I think what it is we're stuck in between time eras, right? There's a such thing as social modernity. Like the term modernity means modern. Everything about us is getting modern except for our social habits, right? And they're trying to regress our social habits back to the 50s and the 40s and the 30s, right? And not understanding what type of damage that's really happening to us socially, right? So when I tell you that I don't know how this stuff is going to be fixed, there has to be enough of us to want it to be fixed, because there's a section of people who don't want it this way because they feel like they're giving up certain social advantages, so therefore they don't want it to be fixed. They're giving up a lot of power in their eyes. So I don't know, you know.
I have two solutions. I think we have to explore how did we successfully get people this ignorant and resistant to begin with, and then use that same tool, and then use that same tool to like re-weaponize that same tool for the solution. And then 2, I think this is where the issue of boldness, being revolutionary, and having an unapologetic existence comes into play at. I think when people don't back down, it forces the wall down, even if the wall is being reinforced politically, economically, etc. It seems that authenticity nonetheless vibrates that wall into shambles. So I think if queer people continue to face off with society, continue to walk, to be day walkers, as I like to call queer people. Like, queer people are day walkers now. That's why we feel like we're seeing, quote unquote, an influx of queerness in the world, because people are no longer living in the shadows of themselves. They're no longer living in the undergrounds of dominant society. They're living amongst the light. And I feel like that's one of the solutions toward this resistance is boldness and tenacity. Like, because, you know, too, I think Arshan said something equivalent earlier, that producer thought that at the end of the day, I'm prepared to die for being queer, because I do understand that I am a endangered species in the system. I understand that. Every day I walk out of my house with my permit to carry and my weapon, and I always encourage women, encourage the elderly, and to encourage all vulnerable minority people to carry.
And do.
We are a endangered species. Now, for me, I've done enough work to be okay with dying on this hill. And not just the hill of queerness, but the hill of all my intersections, the hill of being a Christian witch, the hill of being a Black man, the hill of being a queer person, all of the things that make me a misfit in the system, I understand can become a point of endangerment for me. And I'm not okay with being endangered, but I'm also not willing to back down because I'm endangered either. So we just gonna have to have this battle of good and evil. And I know that that's a very hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, which is why a lot of people will double down and BDL, or they will conform to the expectations of their community. It seems easy at first glance, but once again, it also leads to mutations on the back end, because nobody's ever truly well who's not being who they are, in whatever capacity they're not being who the fuck they are. That misery, once again, it may look like high functioning depression. It may turn into drug addiction. It may turn into just all type of shit. So the solution is going to have to be our allies like Todd and Queen and Rashonda and Arshan, advocating for the humanization of folk, because y'all have access to spaces that we don't. Y'all have a voice that's not going to be considered biased. Like, when queer people advocate for themselves, it's like, oh, like they expect us to advocate for ourselves, so they don't hear it.
Mm-hmm.
But when the people who don't identify as queer are advocating, that creates more of an opportunity to be heard about what's going on. So we need our allies. And, you know, queer people also have to be revolutionary in their existence, but all people who are different ultimately have to do that, because if you bow down and lay down for this society, then yes, the society is going to be under the impression that they are correct.
Mm-hmm.
And you bowing down, kissing the ring, communicates that signal to them that this is proper behavior. We're on the right track. We're doing the right thing. And then they take the results, which is your conformity, as, aha, we told y'all, like, this is abnormal. We can correct this behavior, even though all you're doing as a queer person is modifying your behavior. You're not actually changing your correction. I mean, you're not actually changing your orientation. You're just modifying the behavior. You know, a lot of queer people I know are abstinent as a result of trying to avoid going to hell. And I always tell people, you do know that even though you're not queer in your body, you're queer in your heart. So you're not hiding anything from God. You're not getting around. You aren't getting around the issue by not having sex with the same sex, because you're still same sex loving. You're still same sex attracted. So, you know, I always meet in Reckless. I've had these conversations. On my panel. My heart goes out to Black queer people, because I'm another queer person who baby, if it wasn't for the grace of God, I would not have been here either. The way that dominant society has set this shit up, it almost costed me my life a few times. Like it almost costed me not to want to be here and not want to do this a few notable times in my life. I can't even attribute why the fuck how I made it out, how I found myself, how I freed my mind is all by the grace of whomever my creator is, and it's projection of love and consistency in my life that led to me now turning 40 this year. I never even thought I would live past 25, yet alone make it to be a 40-year-old man. So I'm surprised and shocked every motherfucking day, and I'm filled with so much gratitude. But the issue is that deep and it's that heavy, and I understand why these young trans folk and these young non-binary, these young non-gender conforming, these young same gender loving people are taking their lives. It is absolutely terrible out here in the school systems. It's terrible out here in these households. It's terrible out here in terms of, you know, the interesting thing about being queer for a lot of us is because we had to live on the down low too for a long time in our lives. It was hard knowing that the people that love you really didn't know who the fuck you in fact are, because you couldn't really be all of what you are. And when it came to the development of love and sex, you didn't have the luxury of having your parents affirm you or having those conversations with you, because you weren't even supposed to be the thing that you are. And then God forbid you had siblings, you had to watch them get a certain level of access, a certain level of intimacy emotionally with your parents that they never would afford you as a homosexual or as a trans person. And you kind of really oddly learned how to live on the other side of the glass wall, which was really just bizarre. And I know that that experience is not unique to queer people. It's unique to anybody living in any type of a goddamn closet. It don't have to be the closet of sexuality. It don't have to be the closet of gender. Whatever, you know, your uniqueness is. But it's a lot. Shit has to change. I don't know how we change this aside from what we're already trying to do. You have to change shit on the governmental legislative side, and then people have to continue to show the fuck up as who they are and give a big ass motherfucking middle finger to the society and be willing to whip ass and take motherfucking names if that's what it also comes down to.
Conscious,
I think
have a
people
question.
need to start voting too, but go ahead.
I had a question. Do you think by people being stuck on stupid intentionally is what's causing all of this hoopla and stuff? Because it's like what I've been seeing, people choosing to be stupid. They choose it. They know it's like they don't like change, and so they vote for whoever they think gonna do the job. It's a situation here where I live in Mississippi. Do you know this man? He's the mayor. He hadn't done nothing for 8 years. 8 years. Listen to me carefully. He hadn't done nothing in 8 years. They say he stole some money, y'all. Listen to me carefully. Do you know this fool is trying to run for mayor again? This is what I'm talking about. How can stuff change? And we got people that want the deception, wants the drama, wants the mess in office. So what I see, we're gonna have to step outside of what they know, in government and in legislation, and rise up and do something for ourselves, because like they told us, we don't even have clean water, y'all. They said we on our own.
Oh wow.
And I'm dead serious. I live in Mississippi, y'all. They said we on our own. It's been years. Do you know they still ain't fixed the pipes and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So I'm saying it for a reason. I'm telling y'all, I live in the most racist state of all time. If y'all don't be careful, y'all gonna end up back in slavery. I said this once before. You see how things going. Have you noticed, Conscious? They okay. I found out recently they getting ready to take Medgar Evers home and sell it. Medgar Evers used to live in Jackson, Mississippi.
Let's not shift the conversation too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trying to
okay. But no, I brought that up for a reason. What I'm saying is, people, if we can't come together and have a sound mind and not be stuck on stupid, we're gonna stay in the same thing, and we're going to definitely we're gonna judge people. We're gonna see, and what I'm saying is, judging people, it ain't making it no better. If you pay it attention, judging people ain't getting us nowhere, but we going backwards. That's all I'm saying.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody on the panel had mentioned something about they were trying to change, I think, laws or regulations for children or something. What laws were you talking about? So I mean, because like when I was saying we need to start voting because they're taking away different types of laws regarding sexuality, how you're able to, even be married, all of these things, especially if it's about children, like what type of law? So I know what I'm looking for. Because I think they were talking about like something that has something to do with like sexual orientation or something. Maybe I might have missed that, but somebody mentioned it.
There's quite a few, even in my state. I know recently was a ban on gender affirming care for minors. Okay. They put a law in so that trans athletes can't compete with the opposite gender. So a trans girl can't play with the with the girls. So I know that was just signed into law recently. They're banning books from the public schools and certain
right. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, so a lot. There's quite a bit they're doing.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. So they're the education wise and the kids and stuff like that. They taking away books. They taking away education. They, as Black people, they don't want us to learn or have history. They don't want us to learn nothing. So I said I brought that up for a reason. I'm like, wow, they really trying to take everything that we know as education for our kids away. And people sitting up here fighting and arguing about something so trivial. Well, we got bigger fish to fry. That's what I'm saying. Because like at the end of the day, they want us to be stuck on stupid. That's why I said what I said.
Okay, so CTV, and in regards to the situation with Funny Mike, that's a good point that I think you just brought up. With the sexual affirmation and segregating the sports. What are your thoughts about that regarding children? Because in this case, he was saying his child shouldn't be playing with something that seemed girly. How do you feel about the intertwining of different communities being able to compete against each other?
Whole nother conversation.
Okay,
yeah, that's a lot. But they want us to be stuck on stupid for not only just for us. And I brought all of that up for a reason. They want our children to be stupid. You get what I'm saying? So this is future stuff that's going to affect not only whether trans be hetero, trans, whatever. If we don't get it together, our children will be just as dumb or stuck on stupid. And it's going to affect them.
Oh, I'm sorry. Another point too that I want parents to consider is when you are shaming your children or mad at your children or confrontational when your children are coming to you and, consolidation is saying, Mom, Dad, this is who I am. This is how I see myself. This is who I want to be. Be very mindful of turning your children away, because when you turn your children away, they turn to someone else. Mm-hmm. Be very careful doing that. You don't want to allow your children a portal to just being accepted by anybody or being loved and manipulated by anybody, because that breeds hurt. It breeds resentment. It brings pain. It breeds all types of emotional, mental, sexual issues, even if it's then and years beyond. So love your children and accept them and at least try. If I understand, if you don't get it, it's not easy for you to just, be accepting of, but at least try. Let's make some effort, because again, your children, if they can't come to you, they're going to go to somebody else. Be it somebody that's
Exactly.
gonna take advantage. We need to avoid all of that. Just saying.
And can we also normalize like challenging people? We know people have the right to do whatever they want to do with their kids and all this shit, but we also have the right to correct you. People have the right to challenge you, especially if they can see and believe, and there's enough evidence to support that the way that you are doing things can be more damaging than not. Like, you know, I'm opposed to, yeah, we all got rights. You got the right to do it. I got a right to talk shit about it as well. I got a right to tell you how the fuck I feel and to encourage some sense here or some humanity here, especially when people's humanity is actually on the actual line.
Yeah, absolutely. This reminds me of a conversation again that I had in college with some individuals. We was in philosophy, and we were talking about the modernization of the mind, of social emotions, right? And what I told people is that it's all right to think outside the box. It's all right to become within the times. And there was a gentleman in there who was really religious, right? And I had to inform them. I say, even God saw the need to modernize because we went from the Old Testament to the New Testament, right? So what I'm telling you is this.
Revelation.
If you don't modernize the way that you think, we're doomed. Modernization doesn't just start with technology. It starts with the mind, right? So we have to advance not only in technology, but in social intuitiveness and who we are as people.
I think that somebody also had hit it on the nail earlier, y'all, with the word humanization. I don't think that happens enough with children. And I think that that's what I found so alluring and so respectful and innovative about Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle's approach to dealing with Zaya. That it was a very humanistic way to confront the issue of transgenderism in their household. They were actually like humanizing Zaya. They were actually seeking to understand her, seek and encouraging her to understand herself. They were joining her instead of acting like they were the scholars of the topic, but choosing to make it a journey of unfolding to see where it led. And I thought that that was a beautiful thing. And I know I can't speak for other communities. Deshaun, are you about to drop? Is there anything that you want to say, Boo, before you get out of here?
Yeah, just you know, just love your kids authentically and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And don't assume that your kid is LGBT just because he's playing with dolls. How do we know that this kid might have a daughter and probably do her hair or something like that? A lot of people don't even know what the outcome is going to be because this kid is like, how old is he? 5?
He looked like he about 5.
Yeah. So, like, don't get angry over something that is so small. You know what I mean?
That's why I was saying at least be understanding, at least attempt to make an understanding of the situation. If we just dismiss everything in anger, frustration, dismissiveness, we're not going to get anywhere. And like I said, I understand it could be a new experience. Finding out that your child wants to be something else or someone else, that it is a new experience for the parent. So I can't be dismissive of a parent, you know, just simply not understanding. But when you approach it with anger, you know, just you're not willing to even try. That's where the issue lies, I believe.
I want to thank you for being here, Deshaun. Thank you for being here, love.
Thank you so much.
That was
absolutely
Deshaun, y'all. And I want to say, look, a lot of shit can be simplified through literally the process of humanization. If you understand you're giving birth to humans, not your personal chia pet, not your personal Build-A-Bear, not a thing, not something that's here to fulfill your loneliness, to give you purpose, when you don't objectify the human, the soul you're bringing into the world, and you truly recognize that that's what this is that I am my pussy is simply a gateway for a soul to come out to come through. My dick is simply a gateway for a soul to come through, and that this is a soul. It is an individual ball of data that is going to unfold in and of itself over the course of its lifespan. And if you approach it from there, I think everything can be fine, including the things you don't understand. Because once again, we oftentimes make ignorance synonymous to violence. You can look, if I respect your I always bring this up. We have Satanists in the country. I'm not a fucking Satanist, but
right.
Also humanize people of all spiritual belief systems. And as long as Satanists not out here drawing no blood out of nobody, they ain't out here creating no criminal offenses, I don't give a fuck about your reverence for Lucifer or you adhering to satanic ideology, etc. If you can be a Satanist and quote unquote respect the law, hell to Satan all you desire, baby. Who not gonna be losing no sleep over your worship of Satan is me, bitch. Like I don't have to understand in order to understand your civil rights and your human rights and your autonomy to choose for yourself and to ultimately respect you. I think we also yield a little bit too much to I need to understand to be okay. No, bitch, you actually don't have to be, you don't have to know something to be okay with something. A lot of shit I don't know, and I'm still not getting in the motherfucking way just because I don't know. I'm also not stopping nobody simply because it's not my journey or it's not my choice or it's not my belief system. So I feel like we put too much stake in even understanding. If you literally just humanize people and everybody you're humanizing is able to be law-abiding citizens, stay your black ass out the motherfucking way. What the fuck?
That part.
I agree with what you're saying. I think to me it's just like the stigma of fear of being socialized or being seen in the same realm as someone else. Like I think for the most part, I could be around anybody. It doesn't bother me who you are, what how you identify, what you see yourself as. That will never bother me as long as I don't have to reach down in my purse and exchange some bullets with you. It don't bother me. But I think people just get the fear of having identity placed on them. And that I think that's where the problem comes in. That it's such a fear and a stigma around that. And I don't think until we get past that, we're not gonna ever get nowhere. Because
can I ask a question about that when she's done?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, my question, because you both of y'all kind of tapped into something. I have a question because I the level of feeling that's a part of this, and I want to. You have something in your title that we didn't talk about, but there was a post that went around a while ago, and it was asking people, would you rather have a gay son or a thug son? And I saw so many people saying that they would rather have the thug. Like, just, it was, I just thought it was a foregone conclusion. Everybody would be saying gay, or at least like 75-80%. But it might have been 60-40 would prefer the thug. I just saw a panel yesterday. I was like, I'm raising shooters right now. But my thing is, in the black community, as a black man, I've always been seen as a threat. And I've always been a part of, the impoverished black community. So every day of my life, I've had to think about where the threat might be coming from. Like every single day. So it's always been a threat to life has always been a present feeling in my head. And I can't think of anything deeper than that. But then when I see these people, they say they'd rather have the threat to life than this other version of humanity. I don't understand that.
I just thought about something. That's a good thing that you just mentioned, because when you said that, it made me think about Magic Johnson's daughter, EJ. I remember.
Hold on. Is EJ trans or just a effeminate gay man?
Oh, is I'm wrong?
I think he trans. I think he.
I don't know. I don't know his identity. Yeah, I don't know his identity.
Is he so?
His or her, their identity.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, I saw an interview where some woman was asking EJ how would you deal if your child came to you, because I think this is around the time when EJ first came out and said that he was gay or trans, or I'm sorry, you said trans, right?
Okay, so I'm reading here. It says, Johnson has been noted for his feminine and androgynous fashion style. He revealed that after Caitlyn Jenner's coming out as transgender, he thought about transitioning, but decided against it. So I'm assuming he's a he. He just is a gender fluid, individual. But yeah, either title I guess is fine. Yeah.
Okay, so he was saying at the time that when she asked him, how would you deal if your child came out to you and said that, you know, they wanted to be someone else or identify differently, and he said that he would pray that his child never had to have that conversation with his child. So to what he was just saying, I think that a lot of times people are just not sure or don't want to even have that conversation, period. I don't think anybody wants to have that conversation, because you can ask someone if they're gay, if they're straight, how would you feel if your child came out? Would you rather have a gay child or a straight child? They're going to say straight, because they don't want to have to answer those questions. So I think that's probably the consensus when they say, well, I would rather a thug, because they don't want to. It's not even ideal for most people to entertain that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I would just like, as compared to a murderer though, and like scourge on the community. I don't understand. You know, that's what I'm like. That's where I don't get that. As somebody who's always been seen as a threat in and outside of the community, I don't understand anything that you could put heavier or lower than that. And I definitely have never felt threatened by gay or trans or bi or androgynous. So I don't understand anybody having the choice to be like, you know what, I'd rather have a shooter. You know, I'd rather have a murderer.
That's crazy.
A lot of it is education. They have not came to the realization that individuals do not have biology fixed identities. They're completely missing that. They're just saying there's a man, there's a woman, gender identity doesn't exist. And that's where the conflict is, right? So they keep trying to fix something that can't be fixed, because I'm like you, Conscious. You turn me on to a lot of things. The soul is interconnected with the being. The being is not interconnected with the gender, with the sex of the gender. It's not. It's mutually exclusive. And until mofos understand that shit, they're always going to have issues.
But do y'all think it's about also owning, like they consider transgender as property, and you know, like kids as property, and that's part of it? Like, oh, I own you and you gonna do what I say.
We've already we've already discussed that is obviously a variable of parenting is ownership. But to Todd's point, well, I think maybe we are kind of like over intellectualizing the issue. Maybe a lot of this shit just really comes down to us having to accept that these grown ass people who are occupying the role of parents are just pussy and immature, because we know that in the inverse, if it was socially acceptable, if it was culturally acceptable for men to be in wigs and for women to like women and for there to be all the spectrum, like nobody would care because nobody's getting backlash for anything. So maybe these adults are really trying to preserve or trying to avoid social bullying themselves, because I think somebody mentioned it earlier that parents don't want to be judged for certain things. And so because being queer, especially when you are a black male and then you are a feminine black male or you're trans or whatever, you know, the more of a sore thumb you are, you stick out. A lot of parents don't really want to be in a position to have to deal with that backlash. They try to deflect onto the kids. No, I just don't want you to be bullied. No, bitch, you don't want to be bullied. It ain't got nothing to do with me.
That part. That's exactly what I think.
Because somebody on the
you don't want a grandma looking at you crazy. You don't want the church looking at you crazy.
That part.
You don't want to be bullied.
That part.
But you not wanting me to be bullied, bitch.
That's true.
And that's some pussy shit. Grow up, daddy. Grow up, mommy.
Somebody mentioned it was a code switching, and parents do that. But you have some parents too who will acknowledge at home that their children are gay or LGBT, straight, whatever their orientation is. But when they get in front of somebody else, oh, this is my son, even though he didn't told you, you've been calling your son your daughter at home for 3 years straight, but you get in front of somebody else now and this is your son. It's ridiculous that parents even feel the need to have to feel shamed to support their kids publicly. That's why I loved D-Wade. Listen, I was in the crowd rooting for him so hard. I love the fact that he was standing behind his child 10 toes. Like, no, this is my daughter. Y'all not finna play with her. This is who she is, and I love her for it. I was here for it. I just don't like when parents feel like they have to choose and, draw a line in between the support of their child. Do you know how heartbreaking that is? Can you imagine?
It's very heartbreaking for those of us who know and live through it. It's devastating.
Yeah, and just imagine that child having to alter those two experiences. You love me at home and you ashamed of me in public. That's heartbreaking.
Or you love me in your heart, but you can't love me in private or at home. I just have to accept that regardless of how much it don't look like love, that somehow it is love. That's what you want to convince me of, because some of these parents are very adamant about telling you in their house, you're not gonna do that gay shit. You ain't gonna do that gay shit. You ain't gonna do that trans shit while you living here. And it's stripping away one's self-expression and then trying to convince them that you also love them is going to come into conflict.
Most parents will gauge that under, you need to respect me. You're not respecting me if you're doing that.
That part.
It's not even about the fact of respect. Your child is conveying this is who they are. You should be either accepting of that or you find a way to be able to deal with that. But I don't think trying to control the situation of saying you don't reserve the right to be this person in my house until you're 18 or until you're out of my house, you don't do that to a child. Let's get to the root of understanding. Let's get some grounding in how you want to deal with it. Because again, I think the lady on the panel, she was saying these children have to grow up and go out in real spaces. You giving your child all of these issues and grit at home, this child got to grow up and then go out and deal with the world. And we wonder why people walking around so angry for no reason, so hurt for just doing stuff to people that ain't never did nothing to them. It's because they didn't know how to be dealt with at home. Deal with your children at home. Love your children at home. Instill in your children that they can come to you as mommy and daddy and say, this is who I am, and be proud in that. I said, I understand it's a different circumstance, but you cannot shut that circumstance out. You got to be able to, let's get through it.
I always tell parents of queer people, almost look at your queer children as special needs. You have to love them even a little bit harder. I mean, you got to really, really affirm the love for them, just because for a long time you might be the only people that they in fact know do love them. Everybody else outside of that household may go upside their head, hunt them down, abuse them emotionally, remind them that they ain't shit, that they going to hell, that they are a freak, they are weirdo, they are it. And so your consistent, always available affirmational love may be the only thing that may even be compelling enough for them to draw their personal strength from to get to adulthood, to get through suicidal ideation or to avoid suicidal ideation. Because when your kids are already, they're yours alone, so nobody gonna love them already more than you love them. But then when they different, oh God, are people going to definitely not naturally yield to loving them and respecting them? And so all that they have as a light at the end of the tunnel is you. And I've listened to a lot of the testimonies from parents who have had to unfortunately be the parents of queer people who took their lives. And man, the level of guilt those parents have to live with is incredible. A lot of those parents actually even gave up religion and even are either converted to a fluffier attitude as Christians after the trauma of losing their kids to what they initially thought was the right thing, which was them trying to convert them, alter them, trying to get them to quote unquote do the right thing, and that ended up in them folks taking a motherfucking life. So there are a lot of pressures and variables speaking to parents in terms of making them closed-minded and ignorant to the issue, which is why we got to continue to have conversation. Arshan really hit it on the nail in terms of proximity. It's going to take a lot more than just people knowing gay people exist and that gay people are here. It's going to really break up some of the monotony of this ignorance and religiosity and these phobias. Is going to take relationship, like actually going and making relationship and encouraging young people to make relationship to people who are different from them, because the truth is the world is different, and they aren't going to be going out into a world that's just heterosexual. They're going to be going into a world that's filled with all of it, with every goddamn thing under the sun, people of different beliefs, of different cultural backgrounds, different orientation. So attempting to like keep our kids closeted and keep their asses chained up and act like they're going to be able to exist in a vacuum, their whole existence, is just not even unrealistic. What's realistic is the fact that the world is very diverse and that there's a lot of diversity in life. And the sooner you get started on introducing them to the colorfulness of the world and to the abundance of personalities and individualisms that exist outside of the four walls of their house, the more culture and better suited they are for navigating the complexity of humanity.
Yeah, and another thing, Conscious. One thing about it is, I've learned by me dealing with a lot of different cultures and different things, you get further by being kind and loving toward people, no matter how they are. You know, you know, they have they say you can, they're saying you can catch more flies with honey than you can with something else. What I'm saying is, if you can love a person despite their background, despite their ethnicity, despite everything, you will get further in life. Not only with you, but with your kids. With they'll be able to love with other people. They'll be able to interact with people. I got people I got friends that's Haitians and different things like that. And even you, Conscious, I want to tell you this. Thank you for being you. Thank you for loving me all these years. I've been rocking with you. I have to say that because you windmill for me, baby.
Yeah.
And I really do appreciate.
Yeah.
I don't want to cry, but I appreciate you.
Because baby, we all we got.
You held no idea.
We all we got, child. That's it. We all we got, child.
Don't be crying now, because I'm a cry baby. I'll be crying too. We're gonna be up here crying together.
Cry, child. It's a crying show, child. We cry over here. We get all up in our feet.
But baby, you have rocked with me, and I love you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for just being you, and I learned so much from you. Thank you for loving me.
And vice versa. Vice versa.
See, why can't the world just be this easy? Why we can't just all love everybody? Like,
because it's too easy. It's too easy, Queen.
I can't take it. I just have
that's
such
the
a
easy
big
road. Don't none of these heathens want it easy. They want it hard and long.
Yes, they just want to be difficult for no reason. I just can't. My heart is so big. Like, it's so full of love for everybody. Like, how somebody exists in life has never made me say, I can't identify with you. I can't understand you. I can't have a conversation with you. I've never looked at anybody like that. I just think that we just need to tone down this fear and hypersexualization of everything. Stop putting labels on everything. Stop trying to control the narrative of other people's stories. Let people come to you in confidence and say, hey, this is who I am. Hi, I'm such and such. Get to know people. You don't always have to, and let me say this too, you don't always have to know everything about everybody. Everything ain't your business. If you see a man and he's wearing a woman and his proudness and his happiness, mind your damn business.
That's what my mama taught us. My mama was real big on mind y'all damn business, baby.
Yes.
My mama taught us to look at people like they was crazy. If she saw us staring at folk a little too long, she checked that behavior. She was always giving us the cues on what was inappropriate and not inappropriate, and that you can mistreat people even in your body language. So to even be aware of your mannerisms toward folk and everything.
Yes, it's nothing wrong with minding your business. I mean, if a person comes to you and they say, hey, how you doing? I'm such and such, and this is who I am, and this is how I did. Okay, that's a different circumstance. You're getting to know somebody, but just to be in somebody's business and you whispering and gossiping and just sneaking and taking pictures, like, mind your damn business before you get your ass whooped.
Exactly. And then not only that, they don't want you saying anything to them, but you can be in other people's business.
Exactly.
I never understood that. We got so much to worry about, and we worried about what somebody else doing. God put us here for us to do something positive in life and change the world. Not sit up here and talk and be nosy. I can't stand it.
There are literally studies that suggest that when people are happier, that they are a nuisance to you. So yes, it does come down to personal happiness. If people were just more personally happy, they wouldn't be as prone to judgmentalness or to just trying to make a mess of other people's lives. Literally, our whole studies around that. So yes, there definitely needs to be a focus of self and people putting that energy into getting the quality of their lives up to par. Because when that's not the case, people turn into bullies.
The key word is conflict. Oftentimes what happens is people have a misconception about what a person's moral compass is. A lot of people think that moral compass is the human nature, but they're not. They are created from upbringing and experiences and personal beliefs. And what's happening is that when people come in conflict with their moral compass, there's three things they can do. They can accept it, right? They can fight it or they flight it, right? But what's happening nowadays is people are fighting and they're fleeing from it instead of accepting it. And there is an issue with that because now you're telling me that everything that you have ever taught me in my life was completely wrong. And I don't know how to handle that. That's an issue.
Yeah. People, I always say, Todd, people will fight you for their bubble. They will fight you for the security of their bubble. Busting people's bubble, people feel very tight about that, and people they do not take kindly to people giving them reality checks or challenging them outside of their pseudo securities, which tells me something very interesting about people, is that most people are living from a place of fear. And that's why they're relying on these pseudo securities of religion, these pseudo securities of social norms. What that tells me is that, damn, everybody really is like struggling to keep it together, and they don't know what exists outside of the borders because they've been taught to be afraid of the unknown, and they've been taught to be afraid of what they can't identify. And so everybody holds on to their fences around their yards.
Oh, yes. It's just become a huge problem. Like, even when you mention like religion and stuff like that, people will just dismiss you completely if your alignment don't align with theirs. You can't even question anything. And that's the problem. They've taken every part of religion and now they just use it to weaponize it to prove whatever point they want. And it's such a big problem because you can't even ask anybody anything. You can't get to the bottom of anything. It's just, oh no, this is what the Bible says. So this must be the way that it should be, in this way, in this order, no questions.
Or you going to hell. That's their favorite word. You going to hell. I say, look, if I'm going to hell, I'm going to hell with gasoline draws on, and you go on with me. Never
I
mind.
just let people feel however they want to feel, but it doesn't partake in taking over any aspect of my life. What you think don't make me ish.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm sorry.
I mean, like, have you not had any hangups over these issues? Like, did you have to go through a over the speed bump journey to get there? Or you kind of just, I mean, you kind of just never really gave a fuck, really? I mean, or like what? Yeah.
Here's what I would tell you, because I'm heterosexual. Here's what I would tell you, that it came to a realization in the Army, right? As the Army started becoming more inclusive, people had to just deal with it, right? Because you have to understand, a lot of people, depending on your political background, your experiences, people never come in contact with people who are LGBTQ. They just don't. So therefore, when they put in an environment where they have to assimilate and they have to work together, and it's a structured environment, that in fact that there are possibilities where somebody who don't share the same ideological perspective as you is in charge of you, right? you kind of grow into a naturality. It becomes natural to just start accepting things, right? And there's a lot of acceptance. I wish, how can I say this? I wish that everybody, I wish there's an environment, and we are living in an environment, but it's not socially accepted. I wish there was an environment where everybody had to pay attention to each other, right? Because right now, largely, people have choices. They choose not to pay attention, right? So, like, for example, educational institutions are really good about putting everybody in one classroom and soliciting all types of ideas and methodologies for handling social things, right? The Army is good at that, right? So therefore, if you put people in an environment where they have to assimilate, right, on all levels, right, then they'll start understanding. They'll start being tolerant. But until that happens, I don't know. I hope that makes sense.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Like, for instance, like when I was in school, we had different backgrounds, and I was different. I like, for instance, we had Haitians, we had Creole, we had Latinos, we had Mexicans, we had white people, gay people. So that it taught me something, and. You know, it taught me how to love, and it taught me how to, just because they're different doesn't mean they're still not people. You see what I'm saying? So,
absolutely.
You know, when you get to know a person on a personal level, it makes it opens up so much of your mind and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? I had one person that actually didn't understand the person's culture, and they actually bullied this person. Guess what that person is now? He's in jail. So what I'm trying to say is, he didn't learn nothing from us getting together with these people, and he ended up making fun of them. That's why I'm bringing this up for a reason. You don't have the right. I don't care if you put in a social experiment with these people, different races, stuff like that. Just because you don't understand the person's background, race, gender, whatever they are doing, you don't have the right to mistreat or mishandle or bully people just because you don't understand. It doesn't make any sense, because you're missing out on a blessing. You don't know how a person may bless you just by getting to know them on a personal level. You know what I'm saying? So we as people are so conditioned to bully and make fun because we don't understand somebody outside our race, or because of how they feel. You don't have the right. I don't care what it is. Wrong is wrong. You don't have the right to put your hands on folks just because you don't like them. You don't have a right to hate people. You know what I'm saying? You can hate them, but don't abuse them. Don't mistreat them, because at the end, it's breaking the law. You can go to jail. You can do fines and all that stuff. So people have to be respectful of people's time and heart. If I'm making sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say this as well. Remember, I've said this as well again, and I'm trying to figure out who quoted this, but again, it takes a significant event in a person's life to change them, right? And many writers have written about these significant events. A perfectly good example is maybe the day that the earth stood still, right? Where the aliens were coming down and they were just indiscriminatory. They were just killing everybody, and we had to band together. 9/11 is a perfectly good example because that was the first time in a long time where we were all Americans and nobody cared about what your gender and everything was because we shared the same ideology of somebody trying to kill us, right? So I don't know if it's going to take something on that significant event to pull us together. I hope it doesn't take another World War III for us to pull together where we're all stuck in this neo-apocalyptic Tokyo type scenario where we're all looking for water or some goofy shit like that.
I'm gonna tell you something, and y'all can tell me how y'all feel about it in terms of like you speaking to that.
Yes.
It's unfortunate that devastation, trauma, natural events, wars, all of that shit. Typically, it takes that for us to kind of transcend,
right,
the superficiality of identity and take a united front. So, since that doesn't last, to your point, because we've been through, all of these events, and we continue to be met with these type of events, but yet we still get here. What I'm realizing, and this is why I always encouraged everyone to watch the documentary Where to Invade Next. That is a very that documentary changed the way I look at governments and politics, and showed me the way that this country could be realistically compared to the way that other governments are governing their systems and societies. And one of the things, I forgot which nation it is, but there was a particular nation that the journalists in the documentary had went to, where they had like free healthcare, free education, like free maternity leave. Like the government really takes care of its people. They also have like a heavy censoring ban on like certain types of negative stimuli and like the government literally pushes and is intentional about kind of creating the narrative and kind of highlighting and emphasizing romance and narratives of love. And so you have high marriage rates, you have like almost zero teen pregnancy, you have almost zero crime rate like in this country. And I realized, the reason why we keep getting back here is because we think we can actually resolve our ability to be judgmental when we can't fully resolve that. What we can do is manage it, and managing it comes by way of what those governments are doing. We have to encourage and kind of appeal to the better nature of humanity. One thing about America is that there's no intention behind all of the stimuli. It's kind of just all given to us.
Right.
It's kind of it's just raining stimuli. You just have all these options. So you can be a bad person. You can be a user. You can be, whatever. You have access to all of the fucking stimuli. And because I like what some of these other countries are doing more, I'm like, I prefer a people and its government who are interested in the better aspects of our nature and are a bit more intentional about placating to that versus this. So I think people have to really get into the lifestyle of being a better person. They can't, to somebody's point in the comment section, you can't wait until your trans daughter or your queer son takes his life for you to change your fucking mind. Like, we have to kind of And because we don't have a government that's going to put a foot on our neck in terms of it's going to be intentional about appealing to the better aspects of who we are, we have to then take it upon ourselves to really come to a reckoning about who we want to be and then live a lifestyle that's according to that. And I think the only thing we can do to continue to encourage that is by showing people that it can be different, showing people what happens when it continues to be this way, and by putting people's stories at the forefront and showing people what the damage is, both in the immediate and the long run, from our behavior as a culture. I don't think we see enough of the damage. I think I think we spend so much time thinking about ourselves and just trying to push our bullshit and just holding on to our biases by any means necessary that we really become blindsided to what's really happening to other people and how we're really offsetting other ecosystems. And we even see that when it comes to the way that capitalism is bulldozing over the natural world. I think if we saw the damage truly being done to the natural world, not just when it's being spotlighted because it's a part of some politician's political talking point, but if we really had a system that constantly showed us what we're losing in return from what we're gaining, we might be better mathematicians about the capitalism of it all, because it is coming at the expense of the natural world. It's coming at the expenses of honeybees, trees, our ozone layer, things we actually need. It's coming at the expense of the quality of air. It's coming at the expense of quality of food, which is why they're now introducing so much GMO product. Capitalism is creating all these issues, and we have the luxury of ignoring that, not looking, not being fully aware of how high the price is for all of this. So people have to really educate themselves, and we all have to do our share of showing the Carfax report as well, because people really don't go out of their way to kind of understand the mechanics and the science to their lives, to their luxuries, to their. Thank you for being here, Arshan, and I think Rashonda probably got dropped out, but yeah, like we got to see the damage. Americans, like, we live in too much of a bubble. I think it's time that motherfuckers show what a person looks like with a bullet in their head sitting in a closet. I think it's time for people to see the ugly results of their bigotry, the ugly results of their voting rights, the ugly results of their judgmentalness. We have too much of a romanticism of our low vibrational ass behavior. I think it's time to run the motherfucking receipts, show people the ugly, cold, destructive results of their lack of humanity. I think it's time for us to see that. It's time to show the crime scene. Show motherfuckers the crime scene.
You know what I'm going to do one day when I get the chance? I'm going to see if all of this stuff is linked to socioeconomic systems. Like, for example, capitalism and socialism, and Marxism and communism. Do they all, express some type of control over people socially? Like we know here in capitalism, they tell you can be anything that you want to be. However, a lot of this is linked up to social economic resources. So people who can be LGBTQ, right, for example, who have the money to be able to exist in this type of system without any type of reprisal, right? Is that linked to the socioeconomic system, right? Because we have a lot of actors who are this way. Diddy for a long time got away with all of the stuff that he was able to get away with, right? Because he had the resources to be able to do it. Now, does it really work in other countries per se? So, like, for example, socialism, you would think because everything is like given through government subsistence and things like that, are they allowed to be what they supposed to be? Or what are they allowed to exist in the way that their gender identity would preclude them to exist, as opposed to somebody that's in an authoritarian system such as like North Korea or something? I mean, does that make sense? Is that something worth researching?
Yeah.
That's a fucking.
Well, I think to his question, I think it's fair to understand too that we have the biggest statement in the world. We're the land of the free, but that's not true. Other countries are held to more tighter restrictions, but when it comes to liberations, we're no different technically, because everybody is still asking to be liberated. Everybody wants to be free and have access to certain things, whether it be the rights to who they are, the rights to be able to do whatever they need to do just as human and to exist. So it's absolutely worth researching and finding the solution to that. But again, that goes back to everybody being able to go to the polls and know who the hell you're voting for. Because this is your right as human. You deserve the right as human to be able to exist however you see fit, however you want to live, however you want to be able to exist. That is your right, or at least it should be. But in America, we're still asking for liberation. So technically, are we different than any other country? Because, they, like in Korea, women can't do certain things. They can't dress a certain way. They can't even talk back to their husbands. Women are not allowed to.
It's the same way.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. We're technically no different. We're asking to be liberated as well, to be free to exist how we want to exist. So.
Yeah, freedom is only for a selected few in this country. It's based on classism and race largely as well. And it's a damn shame. It's a damn shame. But I think, a part of the uphill solution is, I think people need to see the ugliness of their behavior. I would agree. See enough of that. I don't think we see enough of it. Yeah. Because I remember when I got when I had a diabetes scare a year and a half ago, and I was already determined to reverse type 2. Like soon as I got hospitalized, I was like, oh yeah, bitch, like this is a wrap immediately. I'm about to commit to everything that I need to commit to. And I did so for a year and a half and was able to reverse type 2 diabetes. A part of what also helped me to double down on that was watching the documentary, What the Health. I had never even explored where our food comes from, or even made a distinction between what truly is food and then what this system considers food to be, which are two different motherfucking things, or even, came from a community around the power of nutrition, and how essential nutrition is to your overall health. And when I saw the way that our food and how these animals are grown, how they are farmed, how they're socialized, how they're treated, when I understood all of the mechanics about how it gets from where it is to our fucking shelves, and then looked at all of the data around this country being one of the, like, we are, I think, the most obese country in the world. Most Americans are living with some type of preventable disease that is connected to some type of dietary issue. It just enlightened my entire brain, and I was never the same after that. It also doubled down on my willingness to get myself out of a situation that I had, unbeknownst to myself, put myself the fuck in. And I've never looked at dairy and meat the same after that. It literally changed my fucking life, and all I needed between what I was going through at that time was also just education. I just needed to know. you know, how it worked and what it really fucking looked like behind the glamorous walls of Bologna being sold for 99 cents on a Walmart shelf, you know. So just seeing it is fucking believing. Education is liberation, and it leads to true enlightenment. And once again, you know, I just don't think in this country that we get enough insight into the way our behavior, like what our behavior results in. We don't think about, you know, how a lot of the diamonds and pearls and jewels and cell phones are made by child labor in other countries. That a lot of this shit comes from blood diamonds and the exploitations of other systems. Like, we're literally offsetting other ecosystems, you know, with our diamonds and furs, with our luxuries, with our commodities. We think that these things are just kind of poetically falling out of the damn sky. No. Like, for everything we're gaining, some other system somewhere is being reduced and being damaged.
And the one in our own country, to be exact. Like, when you were talking about the food, you're talking to a devout vegetarian. I don't consume any meat.
Yeah.
But one of the things, when you were talking about the what the health, I've also seen that as well. And the scariest thing for me, the realization, especially when it comes to food in this country, is that unless you're growing it, harvesting it, or raising it, nothing is safe. Not even the vegetables on our plates. And the bigger part of that is, did y'all not just see what ISIS did? They just got rid of all the people who do the jobs of harvesting. So what you think they about to do to your fruits and your vegetables and all of that stuff? They're going to start shooting it up to make it bigger, grow faster, because there's no one to do those jobs. So when y'all go out there to these polls, y'all asses better vote.
Yeah.
It's just that.
But voting comes by way of being educated. Like, you got to be educated to know even how to vote, you know, and to vote for, you know, like, you have to get in the shit. And I know that they're trying to do everything in their power to keep us as hamsters on a wheel, so that we don't put our head to books, we don't put our head to information, we don't put our head to data, and we just kind of look at legacy media as a way to inform ourselves, when that's being weaponized by the puppet masters. You know, but regardless of how busy and complicated our lives are, if we want to save our lives, we are going to have to burden ourselves with making time to be truly educated about what's really going on out here and what type of fucking time it is, so that we know what type of time we need to be the fuck on.
That's a fact. When I tell you I have done so much research on how to start my in-house garden, it is not a joke. I'm telling you, like, going to the store is the most scariest thing right now, because we just don't have enough resources and people willing to do those hard jobs. And, you know, you got people out here taking it as a joke. That's why I said we are all asking for liberation within this country. We are all asking to be free and to be existing in health, wealth, sexuality, freedoms, all of these things. We're all fighting. It's not a battle that we have to be divisive and divisive in. We all need to be standing together and looking at your neighbor like, hey, I'm gonna need you when it's time to plant this garden. I'm gonna need your ass when it's time to get our clothes together, because, you know, LGBTQIA plus community, y'all some bad mofos at the designing. So we gonna need everybody. Everybody has a part, you know, to do. Everybody has a job. Nobody's bigger than the program. It's no big I's and little U's. It's us. That's it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's
All
it.
right, well, I apologize, but I have to get to bed. But
I gotta get out of here too. I got shit to do. But this was a really good conversation.
Yes, I had fun.
Thank you guys for everything. I say it again. Every time I'm on a conscious live stream, every time I see a conscious live stream, I get educated, okay? Y'all make me go back up to my study and pull the books out and be like, wait a minute, we talked about this. You provoke inner thoughts, higher learning, and I appreciate everything that you do for the community conscious. And trust me when I tell you, you are much needed, as well as everybody's ideas in the panel and in the comment section as well. And I thank you again, my friend. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you, CTV, and thank you, chat. I love y'all. Have a beautiful night.
And you too, baby. This was a wonderful discussion, you guys. And we're going to keep continue to have them. I know we gotta keep tilling the soil, child. A bougie bitch asked me if I think I'm actually working on a book right now. I'm working on a coffee table book. It's more of a book of references and affirmations. It's going to be super dope, super visualistic, super poetic, and it's just going to be something that like people can just pull out on a sunny day or at the coffee shop, and if they just want to stimulate themselves and arouse some deeper thoughts and kind of induce some trances, it's just going to be like a beautiful I don't even know what to call it. It's going to be it's just poetic spirituality. It's going to be epic when you guys see the way that I'm designing this book. But it's basically a book of feel good. It's meant to induce feel good. It's meant to kind of take your mind away, kind of put you on another planet, and to take you into your kind of higher self. I haven't thought about doing a book about how I changed my diet and how that resulted in me reversing type 2 diabetes, which would now be 4 months. I got the news from my doctor back in November of last year, when my doctor brought in his doctor, who brought in his doctor, who brought in his doctor to all tell me, motherfucker, bitch, how the fuck you got your A1C 7 to a A1C 4? Baby, them people took me off of my insulin and every damn thing, and I just been eating cabbage and broccoli and meditating. So, but that would be a great idea to write a book about how nutrition and dieting changed my life, because it did, man. It's amazing. So I might do that, bougie. So I'm gonna get out of here, you guys. This was great. Shout out to all my panelists: Reckless, Todd, Queen, Rashonda, Arshan. Make sure you guys subscribe to Arshan's platform, Critically Drinking, an amazing content creator. If you guys enjoyed yourself, you guys already know to hit that Cash App and or PayPal. Send me all the tea to my email. Follow me on Instagram, all that good jazz. And we'll probably be back later today to get into some goddamn mess. Cardi B and Offset got it going on, girl. It's a lot happening in Hollywood. So we'll be back in the Sky Reaps pussy popping on this old nasty piece of Sunday. Make sure you guys thumbs up the video on your way out. Please subscribe if you're new here. Share the platform, all that good jazz. Shout out to 53K and counting, and I will see you all later. Peace.